clap the cheeks. No, all of China knows you're cringe. It's like, duh! No.
Welcome, little chatfish, to a new stream and a new day. Today we're going to be talking about why the thing you like is dead. They're like, no! But it's actually not the subject you're probably all thinking, because the title can be a little misleading, but the message is the same. So, today's subject is one of great interest because Chatfish has brought this up, and it was actually an interesting conversation. And it's basically what you love is dead. And this is something that I think people might have a lot of feelings on, maybe different emotions on, for sure. But the reality is that, yeah, what you love is dead. The thing you love died many, many moons ago. And some of it might have died recently. But at the same time, this particular subject isn't necessarily something of like, oh, it's dead and they're doom and gloom. You can't enjoy things. It's just the thing you love is dead. And it's how to sort of understand that concept. What is dead media? What is it, Chumpus and Bina? What's dead media?
Well, it can mean a
Um,
couple things.
yeah, like to me, truly dead media is media that like it's not that you even hate it. It's media that you don't feel any desire to interact with it. For example, there's a few cartoons from my from back when I was a kid. The Brazilian cartoons, even that they were good, but then like they fucked so many things up that like no one hates it. People just don't care anymore. You know what I mean?
People
People are forgetting.
don't care.
Yeah.
So
Now,
the
what's
two
Chumpus?
things with dead media, two definitions you can go with, is it's an IP or property that had a lot of good stuff, but now there is just nothing being made of it anymore. It's just kind of sitting there. It's dead. Nothing new has come out for decades. It's kind of abandoned.
Yeah, that's
The other thing, which is more what we're talking about in this case, is what the media or the IP or whatever started out as and what it's well known for is gone, and everything that's being made for it now, it's completely different. It's been subverted to do something else.
Yep, it's sort of like a skin suit, wearing the face
Yeah,
of the thing you
a great
like, but
example would be
not
Star Trek.
sold. Yes. I mean, all the icons I have up. Now, this is just a couple of examples of dead media.
Mm-hmm.
So, Star Wars is dead, an example of dead media. Star Trek is an example of dead media. Halo is an example of dead media. And Warhammer 40,000 is an example of dead media. There is a lot
Because
more dead media, more than just these things that are dead. It just, I wanted to use the four biggest examples because these are the four things I really like that. Now, I was thinking about doing Lord of the Rings, but Lord of the Rings, while it is dead media, it's a very different sort of dead media. It's kind of weird. And so, in this particular case, what separates, and I'll do this because there is media that's sort of like Lord of the Rings, where it's kind of in a similar position, where it's also technically dead media, but it's also different
it's not
because,
subverting
well, I mean,
what already exists yet.
it's they are trying to subvert things. It's just
They're
the issue
trying to,
is
but
is
not
that
yet.
the issue is that the media kind of ended in an era, and then there was a blank spot of nothing made, and then they started making stuff again recently.
Lord of the
And
Rings falls into both the definitions of it.
yes, and it also boils down to the fact that the creator himself, Tolkien, is dead. Like, he died. And the story kind of ended, even though he intended to make more, but he passed away, and the story didn't. It just ended with Lord of the Rings. It didn't continue. It stopped. It stopped there. And so while there's other pieces of media that try to build on top of that, there's no legitimate way to build on top of that foundation because it's not okay. The one attempt was the Iron Tower trilogy, for those who know about that. But that obviously didn't work out because even the publisher was like, nah, we don't want to do that.
So
Ponderson donates 165 Donkey Kongs and says, hope you all have a nice start of a new week. Activate animated Chatfish, SE2, Nova upgrade, Boulders, Pocket Fish, Fit, Cooking with Kibs. Thank you for the generous donation. I shall
Thank you, my
activate
dude.
it.
So, an example of a media that was dead, with the first definition, and is now more or less becoming the new definition, would be Dune.
Yeah,
There wasn't
Dune.
anything produced for it for a long time, and now there is, but now it's getting subverted a little.
Yes, because Dune has a couple pieces of media. Great example. It has a board game multimedia thing that was produced for it. It's got a video game called Dune Awakening. It has another video game called Dune Spice Wars, and it also has the Dune movie series, which we know of, which is sort of spearheading this revival period. And we also know that there's another piece of media that's going to be revived, that's been kind of not necessarily dead, but it's got like embers burning. It's the Starship Troopers IP. But that one is what we call poisoned media, which we talked about a little bit in yesterday's stream, actually, where we talked about poison media and what poisoned media means. Because poisoned media is a whole other can of worms. What is poisoned? And poisoned is when, real quickly to break it down, is essentially a piece of media that is poisoned so much by so many others because everybody's put their fingers into the pie, so to speak, that it's become a mess and it's poisoned. Like what the meaning of the media was is now lost because everybody's touching it and messing with it. But it's not related and there's too much warping going on. It's sort of like similar to subversion, but in this particular case, poison media is more so referring to less so a subversive element, rather that everybody's got a very biased opinion of it. A great example of this as well would be Disco Elysium as another piece of what we call poisoned media, media that is too divisive or too conflicting, and there's so much misinformation about it that the truth is actually buried, and people don't want to hear the truth. Starship Troopers and Disco Elysium are both examples of poison media, where the truth is an inconvenience to many, and so the truth is often not listened to or ignored. For example, for Starship Troopers, the truth is the movie sucks and is not like the book. Well, no, that's not right. Sorry, my brain's going a little faster than my mouth. The movie is not necessarily it sucks, but as an adaptation, it sucks because I actually like the movie. But the thing is an adaptation. It's a failure. It fails to adapt
Yes.
the book. And so it created a schism, which created a schism that polarized the community about which piece of media is good and which isn't, and blah, 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 blah. And it was also politicized, so it's also poisoned in that sense. Disco Elysium was poisoned because the game came out, it was popular, people really liked it. Then two people made a statement that was political, praising Karl Marx, and then they were fired, and then there was a whole schism because the studio fired them, and they fired communists. And does that make the game woke? Does that make the game communist? Is the game not communist? Did those people actually work on the game? There's, it's poisoned because the whole thing has become a mess. It's a disgusting amalgamation of crap that now muddies the media. It interferes with the media's interpretation because nobody actually thinks about what is Disco Elysium. Everybody thinks instead about the drama and the controversy rather than the story that the characters had to go. Same for Starship Troopers. Starship Troopers is now poisoned. In the same vein that Warhammer 40k is becoming poisoned. It probably already is, but I just don't follow it anymore because I
It is. They
disconnected.
don't know what 40k is. GW
Yes.
openly admits this.
Yep, and it's also the fans have a very different perception, and then the fans have become politicized, and now the fans have become politicized. It created a schism, and now that there's a schism in the fandom, it's poison media. It's dead. It's effectively, it can't go forward, it can't go backwards, it's stuck in death.
Another example of that confusion and mismatch of what people think the game is supposed to be would be Helldivers 2.
Yep, the developers don't actually realize what they've made, and the players understand it. And there's a schism between what the developers think the game they've made and the players who actually play the game. And they have a completely different interpretation of the media they are playing. It's very similar to the wonderfully fun movie that is Starship Troopers from the 90s, right? Starship Troopers is very fun. It's a fun movie. Really love it. But the director has a completely different vision of what it is, and the viewers have a very different vision of what the movie is. And it's created a schism, thus poisoning the overall view, right? Versus if you look at the original trilogy for Star Wars, it's pretty bog standard. Hero's Journey, Lord of the Rings, pretty bog standard, not poisoned. Everybody kind of gets the grasp of it. Some people might try to subvert it, but it's kind of impossible to really poison because it's kind of final, is the issue. It's finished. There's no work in progress. There's no revisionism. There's no retconning going on. So you can't really revise the story because anybody who does it does so from an illegitimate source, meaning that they have no basis for their change. It immediately gets rejected. A great example of this would be Rings of Power. Rings of Power would, in a sense, do what Warhammer 40k suffers from and poison Lord of the Rings. However, Lord of the Rings cannot be poisoned because it's coming from an illegitimate source. The source it's coming from is so far removed, and Tolkien is, well, no matter how you slice it, like he's been dead for so long that you can't really write anything in Lord of the Rings and be like, this is new canon, right? Versus George Lucas is still alive technically, and he'll be dead soon, because he is getting really old, and that's just how the world works.
Well, he's also sold away the rights to make the canon.
Yes, he also sold away the rights, and he also allowed other people to write in the setting to begin with. So that piece of media is easier to poison, just like Dune is, right? When Frank Herbert passed away, his son carried on the legacy and continued to write the books, and because new media is constantly being produced, there isn't as much of a gap between the new media that we have today and the old media that we have from when Frank Herbert was alive. So it's one of those things where
Even
it's
most
like
of the new media for Dune is also viewed as not even continuing canon necessarily as much as just a different interpretation of it.
Yes. And so this is where we get to the difference between poisoned and dead media. The reason why it's important, because we did have a topic about this the other day, because dead media and poisoned media can be a same piece of media. There can be a dead piece of media that's poisoned, but at the same time, which I actually think Disco Elysium is going to be one of the pieces of media that's going to be added to that category. Not only will it go down in history as poisoned, but it's also going to become a dead media because even the developers themselves don't want to make another game set in the Disco Elysium setting because they're afraid of it now. They've become skittish, and they want to avoid it. And I don't really know if I blame them.
Also, the original dev team doesn't exist.
Yeah, a lot of them got fizzled out during the
They went
infighting.
their own ways. Yeah. Now, before we get past this topic, there was one or two questions and a few quick announcements. First of all, Semper donated $100 to get on to. Let me just quickly double check what it was for Mech Assault and Dinotopia. And did want to remind chat that Semper's bounty is upgraded till the end of this month. So if you do hit Semper with a membership, you do get your choice of a bucket fish or a fancy fish. And then we have a question from Gregors. By that definition, would you consider RE a poisoned IP, multiple and conflicting info sources?
Yes, Resident Evil is easily
he has a
poisoned.
point. Yeah, because
but
no one really knows. Is it supposed to be kind of comedic, campy game? Is it supposed to be a serious game? Is it an action-oriented game? Is it a horror game?
We have to break Resident Evil. Resident Evil is poisoned because of this simple fact. So as somebody who's been reading and studying a lot of this IP and this media to understand Resident Evil, because I'm new to the overall series. Resident Evil, I think I can break it into threes. So essentially, there's Resident Evil 1 through 3, which has its own tone and setting. And then there's Resident Evil 4 through 6, which are very different than 1 through 3, which creates the first schism. And then you have Resident Evil 7, 8, and 9, which are different from the other groupings of threes. And it seems like they're grouped in groupings of 3. Now, that's probably going to change once they do Resident Evil 10, because it's probably going to be a little bit more in line with the new ones, unless they go 180 and reset again. But I think they found a formula that works, and they're following the 7, 8, and 9 formula. They're just having a hard time getting people to bite onto a character, because all their new characters is the issue that, because they're struggling with getting you to like one of the new characters, because the old generation of characters is getting old and they're trying to retire them, but every time they try to introduce you to a new character, you guys end up rejecting it, and so they're really struggling.
The new ones are bland.
Yeah, and that's because they're making them too sterile, and there's a myriad of reasons as to why that is, but yeah, so. Resident Evil is an example of poison media. It is not, in a sense, dead. In that sense,
there's also the movie adaptations.
Yes, there's the schism between the Japanese movies and then there's the other movies, which they're so far removed that they don't affect each other.
I'm sorry, but I need to comment on this. It's the third image it's showing here that you have up. That guy has tic-tac-toe in his hair.
I don't even.
They were playing a game of tic-tac-toe in his hair, and I hate it.
That's pretty bad. Yeah, that's a bit weird. Either way, don't care. But yeah, so back to dead media, right? So dead media
Mhm.
is an example of a piece of media. Now, this is a great example of dead media. 40K's community is what I would say is poisoned, but I don't know if the media itself is necessarily poisoned yet. Now, if we talk about like Age of Sigmar, we could maybe theorize that it's potentially poisoning. However, because it's a continuity issue of progressing forward, it's not really a poisoning. It's rather just a separate IP, and then they're bringing back the old world anyways. So there's two separate different lines. The old world, on the other hand, is affected by poisoning, but it's also dead media because, again, the issue is that it has no actual like staying power. Like anything they produce is built on top of something that they didn't really make themselves, if that makes sense. And it's not just Warhammer 40K that has this issue. It's a lot of companies because a lot of IPs are now that old. They've been around for that long that it's becoming more and more apparent that, things are kind of, dead. Like Halo is built on top of by people who never worked on Halo, also people who never really cared about Halo, and it shows because there's two different, completely different settings as something goes on. And when we talk about dead media, we also have to understand the spirit of, right? What is the spirit or the soul of a piece of media? The soul encompasses the vibe. What is the vibe, right? It's the atmosphere, it's the thematics, it's the overall beats, it's the overall philosophy, and it's the overall politics of, right? So what is the politics of a setting? Every setting technically has politics. However, not all settings use contemporary politics. In fact, most fiction settings use non-contemporary politics because they're not about contemporary politics, right? They might be influenced by it. For example, Tolkien's work was very much influenced by the things he saw in World War One, as well as the things he dreaded about the upcoming World War Two. The Nazgul, the Nazi ghouls, as they, you
And
know,
his faith was a big
Yep,
influence as
and his
well.
faith, right? So there are like certain things and his desires are imprinted upon his media. And that's why when you see media, if you want to adapt media, like faithfully and truthfully, you need to adapt the media and understand it and truly engross yourself in the philosophy of the person who created that piece of media, right? And so a great example of this, while isn't the best adaptation, but it's not well, it's the best cinematic adaptation we've ever gotten of Lord of the Rings, and it's the Peter Jackson films, right? And why does it feel so like soul wise connected? Like it's missing huge sections. Like there is things that did not happen. Like like there is elements of what we call proto feminism because what's her nuts, the elven chick, does a bunch of things that belonged to another character and took credit for them, and then they just deleted his character. I forget his name. Chatfish, I'm bad with names. You have to
Yeah,
help me.
it only shows up for like that part. So, like they remove a lot of characters that only show up for like a little bit.
Mm,
Like the Helm's Deep, which people love, that entire thing was changed. That entire scene, the fight, who came to rescue them, like all of that was changed.
yeah, the elves never arrived. There were no
I was
elves.
right. Well, it wasn't. There were Huron coming back. It was Gandalf went and organized the people who originally were defending and brought back a massive army.
Yep.
Like they rewrote. Like Aromir was there at Helm's Deep. I mean, already, basically in the books.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's an example. But like the big thing there, why did Peter Jackson's film? Well, there were some changes because their own politics did bleed in. They did. I think it'd be a lie to say that they didn't, but I would say that they tried. It seemed like very concertedly to not bleed their personal politics. So much so that they tried to do their best to be as faithful as they could, even though in some places it did bleed in. But because they did their best to try to emulate what Tolkien's story was, they managed to capture the spirit and the soul of it relatively okay. And that's the part I think people like the most, right? It carries that spirit and that essence because they were trying to be as faithful as they could, even though they slipped up here and there, right? At the end of the day, you can tell when somebody tried, adverse to the Halo TV show, where, and this is harder because I know a lot of you haven't watched it, but basically in the Halo TV show, while the names of the characters and places and the factions are the same, the people that those characters are race swapped, which shows a little sense of caring, and motivations are completely flipped upside down, and characters are humanized that shouldn't be, as well as, you know, like humans are working with the Covenant when Covenant have a zero tolerance policy against humans even being alive. They're totally genocidal. And so that's just to give you some ideas about like an example where it's so warped, so twisted that the Halo TV show is almost, if it wasn't for the fact they were wearing outfits that look like Halo themed things, you could not and would not be able to tell that it was ever Halo to begin with, in my opinion. If they didn't get if you just remove the outfits, it'd be impossible to tell because the plot and the story and the characters and their motivations are so far removed from the soul of what Halo was by Bungie that it's unrecognizable. And I think that is a great example of like a piece of dead media. It's much wearing the skin suit because they want to be the big IP and use the IP, right, for its big popularity to launch their new thing. This is the same with the Stargate TV show writer for the upcoming new Stargate TV show, where they talk about parking things. The concept, and this gives a sort of insight into the creative mindset behind these kinds of people. They want to park an idea. They want to, okay, we can't change the gate from Stargate. We're going to park the gate. Because if we change the gate, it will become unrecognizable and it won't be Stargate anymore. Just like when the one guy wanted to create a fancy new spaceship and was more interested in making a spaceship than he was about maintaining the spaceships that we already have in the setting. And as well as not only did he want to do his own new spaceship, it shows a fundamental misunderstanding about what the core theme of Stargate is. What is Stargate? For those who don't know, imagine XCOM, where humanity is fighting against aliens. However, unlike XCOM, where humanity is fighting on the defense, our homeworld is actually unknown to our enemy, and they don't know of our location, and we use a thing called the Stargate, which gives us access to other planets in the galaxy to launch attacks and get information and intel. And we're basically in a race against time to be on the offense to build our own defenses before they discover our world. Because the minute they discover our world, they will just wipe us off the face of the earth. And so that's the theme of Stargate. That's what it is. It's basically sort of like mankind in a race against time against alien powers that are way more advanced than us, and we have to figure out a way to fight them with our single
So,
world and our small like special forces guys.
yeah. And Stargate SG-1 and Stargate Atlantis are great, but the main problem here, especially with, as Kid was pointing out, the guy who just kept focusing on about his spaceship, is they're basing all their ideas and these plot points off of the last Stargate
A
thing, which was Universe,
spin-off.
which itself was a subversion of Stargate. It was very clearly they didn't want to do a Stargate thing, they wanted to do their own thing, but they used Stargate as a skin suit.
Yes, they were very much motivated by the modern Battlestar Galactica. If you've not seen modern Battlestar Galactica, Battlestar Galactica is a reboot of an 80s science fiction show, and it starts off strong but really has a lot of weaknesses. What are some of the weaknesses of Battlestar Galactica is very much a subjective take, because Battlestar Galactica is incredibly popular, and so in this case, I will have the unpopular opinion here for sure. But the issue with Battlestar Galactica's reboot is that it fundamentally misunderstands the themes of Battlestar Galactica, at least in my opinion. And it focuses instead on human melodrama between humans fighting humans, and then the Cylons are sort of like a background threat. Another example of a piece of media that does this would be like something like The Walking Dead, where The Walking Dead is zombie window dressing in basically a melodrama TV show, where it's not really about the zombies are the background element. Adverse to Stargate, where the Stargate itself is important. The characters are the centerpiece, but the Stargate is the essential piece that moves the story together. It is the key that drives the story forward, because the Stargate is just core to the story. It's important to it. It's involved in every episode almost, save for like some of the spin-off episodes, and it's
It's
like the centerpiece of the entire show.
it is. It's the entire reason the events and everything exist is because of the Stargate.
The whole thing is named after the thing, and the thing is the
Yes.
focus, right? You know,
And the new show is gonna be like, well, it's still there, it's important, but like we're just gonna park that there. It's like, okay, so
Yeah.
The Stargate itself will take a backseat.
The Stargate is something I can't change, and because I can't change it, I'm going to park the idea of it. We'll have it in the show, it'll be there, but we're going to focus on the spaceship. And it's like, okay, the issue with that is
That
that it's not what people are interested in. People came here because they're interested in the Stargate. And the Stargate doesn't need to be the sole focus of the show, but it needs to be a centerpiece because it's important to the show. Much
is
like the characters, the SG-1 team in Stargate SG-1 was the focal point for the characters. The Stargate was the focal point device that allowed the characters to traverse. Go ahead, Bino.
this kind of gives me vibes from this guy from the Stargate one, the Stargate thing. He gives me vibes from that Alu Shankar guy that did Devil May Cry, and like it's nothing Devil May Cry. It's just like a skin suit for like his own like mouthpiece propaganda shit. You get what I mean?
Mm.
Like, oh yeah, like this Devil May Cry thing is very interesting, but we are going to park Dante over there and tell a new story about this very cool demon stuff that I had idea. Like, it's the same thing. It's the same. Like they don't really care about the setting. They're probably trying to get like a lead on a big thing, quote unquote, to try to get their name out there and try to see if they can like quick start jump start their own stuff later. But
Well, a lot of writers, for example, will work on a project, but it's not the project they want to work on. So, to put this into perspective, when I was a little kid, my biggest one of my biggest heroes was like my dad and my uncle. And my uncle was a game developer who worked on video games, and I viewed him as like a rock star, and he was a huge inspiration for me, like liking games and getting into games and wanting to be a game maker myself. And one thing my uncle pretty much told me was that when it comes to it, like you're gonna have your time in the sun, so to speak. But when you want to work on games and stuff, and when you want to work in the AAA industry, because he was kind of explaining to me how it worked, because I was asking him a lot of questions at the time, because I was interested in getting into the industry somehow. I wanted to be in the industry. And he basically explained it to me like this: like you're gonna work on projects, and it's not gonna be something you're interested in, right? It's gonna be like you're gonna have to work for other people, and you're gonna work on projects, and you're gonna do stuff, but you're gonna be building connections and building like a case, and in the background, you're gonna be building the thing you want to make, and you're gonna be building a case and a portfolio on that thing you want to make, so that when you get your time in the sun, your moment, you're gonna pitch that idea to somebody who's a mover, and you need to win them over with that idea, and then
Mhm.
your idea will get its time in the sun, basically.
Yeah,
And
but
that's how you work your way
there's
up, right? That's the entire
yeah, but
concept of how the industry works. And so when it comes to this, it is the exact same thing, except here they are, instead of waiting for their time in the sun, they're like, I want to do my thing now. I want to do it right now.
okay.
And I'm going to write a Halo TV show, but I'm going to make it my thing instead. I'm going to build on top of it. I'm going to make my mark here. And they're too focused on
Mm,
making their marks in this sense because it is a narcissistic thing when it comes to storytelling and creators. Because as a writer myself, we all want to make something that people like you like, right? Like people like in general. I want to make something that people enjoy, and this is the thing I made. This is my prestige, right? I built this. I made this. I built this thing, right? When it comes to being hired as a writer, these IPs have been going on for so long that the generation who originally sparked them is gone. And now it's my turn to come in, right? But instead, in this particular case, instead of me honoring the legacy of what came before, I jump the gun. I start writing what I want to write rather than earning that moment, rather than basically following in the footsteps and trying to make another Stargate show in the veins of what Stargate is and honoring what Stargate is and honoring that fandom. I have no allegiance to that fandom. I wasn't here when that fandom was here. I didn't work in this environment. I've just got brought in and I'm reading about this stuff and I have no particular super big connection with Stargate. I have no connection with the fandom and I'm more interested in trying to use the IP, the popularity of that IP to establish and launch my thing. That's what's happening in that case. And that's what's happening for this. That's what happened for Halo TV show. That's what happened exactly with Stargate Universe because it was about launching my idea, not about continuing the legacy of Stargate. And the same goes for the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Like, it was never about continuing the legacy of Star Wars and honoring the characters that came before, in the same vein that J.J. Abrams said to Mark Hamill. He said, to paraphrase him, was basically like, no, I don't want you guys to have 30 seconds to meet because it's not your story anymore. It's my story, and it's my character's story. That's what he meant. That's what J.J. Abrams meant. It's his story and his characters. Your story is over. Your time is over. Get out of the way and make room for me. That's what he basically did. And that's why Force Awakens, while it was received lukewarmly because people were, willing to be patient with it, it was a terrible foundation, right? And then even if you ignore Rian Johnson coming in, the results would have been the same because it was his story, his thing. And Rian Johnson was just another same as that fucking schmuck, except he didn't like J.J. Abrams, and so they had a feud with each other. But either way, like, they both wanted to make their story using the Star Wars IP and its reach to boost the thing that they were making. They were not earning anything here. And that's why it feels so wrong, doesn't it? The characters feel like they're spitting on the legacy of the old characters. Even the writing is hostile. It doesn't give any moments of brevity or any sort of reconnection to those older characters because it doesn't want you to. And in the second movie, it outright tries to assassinate, actually does assassinate Luke's character by going like, he's a hermit, he's not achieved anything, he's given up, he's also lame and stinky, and also he's dead. Meh. Puh. Spit on him. All right, move on. Now, like my characters. Like, that's literally it. There's no grace period. There's no changing of the guard. There's no ceremony, right? Compare this to Star Wars Legends. Star Wars Legends introduces new generations of characters that eventually sort of, like, Luke starts to, get older, so does Han Solo, and the new generation sort of, inherits what the previous generation left behind. This sort of passing of the torch is done slowly and gradually and is earned. It isn't forced, it isn't rushed, it isn't insulting. It is literally the generational continuing. It's literally the next generation coming along. And that's why it feels more, how do I put it, more soulful, more respectful. Even playing Star Wars Jedi Academy, like, playing that felt good. Like, Kyle Katarn was a new character, but did Kyle Katarn come in and shove Luke out of the way and like, get out of here, it's my story now? No,
You dude.
he didn't. He works alongside him. He respects Luke quite a bit, even though he doesn't see eye to eye with him. His respect for him and how he treats him helps endear Kyle Katarn's character to the viewer. He's actually a fun character because he doesn't contrast, like, negatively. He's not, like, barbed. He's not attacking the other characters. He's fitting in. He's fitting alongside Luke. He's there to help Luke. He's there. He's a part of Luke's order. Luke's in charge of him. He respects him.
He didn't do that, but he could have.
Okay, by the way,
Yeah,
I
you
have to
could have,
go
yeah.
real quick. I need to cook some eggs because the chicken that my brother cooked is raw inside. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Don't get food
Fail,
poisoning.
Bino, fail.
Yeah.
But yes, Kyle Katarn, the most badass character in Star Wars.
Well, even just ignoring biases, right? Like, it's an example of how to
Yeah.
introduce a character that isn't insulting, right? Some people
Yeah.
might find Kyle Katarn not interesting, and there's nothing wrong with that either, right? But, like, for example, I find characters like that interesting because they're adding to the world. He's not subtracting, he's not replacing, he's not here to tell Luke he's a misogynist pig and stuff like that. He's not here to insult the viewer's intelligence. He is adding to the world, adding to the setting, building to it, rather than trying to spit on the people who came before. And that's, I think, one of the issues you see in a lot of media, right? That's like, for example, Star Wars, the ultimate media that Disney was missing. Disney had a monopoly on girls, right? That sounds really fucked up, but you know what I mean? They had a monopoly
Because it is.
on girls in terms of, like, their interests and what they could produce them, like in terms of TV shows, in terms of toys and stuff like that. The one thing Disney always was lacking was they never really were able to get the real stranglehold on, like, boys in the market. And then they get handed the piece of media that single-handedly almost not every, but a great majority of boys like Star Wars. And what's the first thing they do with this media? They subvert it.
The
They
Force
try to
is
make it about
feminine.
women. They try to make it about gender. And because it's now being made about women and gender, they're now forcing what we call gender, or more simply, contemporary politics, into this media that never had a place for contemporary politics in the first place. Because the issue is that, is media political? Yes and no, right? The debate bros and their cringe shit will be like, yes, everything's political, right? It's conservative, or it's democratic, or it's liberal, or blah 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 blah, right? To a degree, yeah, to a degree. However, here's the issue. Each piece of media is not really contemporary, right? There are things that bleed in, like I mentioned with the Nazgul from Tolkien's work, and like I mentioned with Tolkien's work in general, with his personal beliefs and overall philosophy. That's always going to be, because writers are going to write what they love. But we'll notice also with Tolkien's work that he doesn't go out of his way. Well, the Nazgul's names and inspirations and influences come from a certain thing and a certain place of real fear and turmoil from him himself, right? It's not that he goes out and goes like, Sauron has a little toothbrush mustache, and also he's orange, and he's orange man bad, and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, they don't do
Mhm.
okay, I'm just gonna go completely. It's inspirational. It's rooted in a place that came from his experiences, but while it is rooted, it isn't poisoning the thing he's working on. It isn't just becoming this like venom that seeps in. Adverse to other pieces of media where it starts to become poison. It's starting to just rot the thing it's actually affecting, because they can't control their own personal feelings and their personal political beliefs, that they're becoming rabid. They have to attack the opposition. And the issue is, as creators and as writers, it is important that we separate ourselves from the politics of this world, like in the sense of the contemporary nature of it, right? It's okay to take inspiration from things. There's nothing wrong with that. All things and all art derives from life itself, right? It's inspired by life. But the issue that begins to develop into is when you get to the point where you're like, I'm gonna make this about owning the libs, or I'm gonna make this about owning the chuds, or blah 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 blah. You know, whatever, right? And instead of producing something that was good and qualitative, you've now produced something that is merely just a soapbox for you to espouse your nonsensical things. You're going to appease the people that, if you lean right, you're going to appease the people that lean right. If you lean left, you're going to appease the people that lean left. But at the end of the day, your piece of media will age like a piece of milk, or like a cup of milk left out, on a hot summer day. It's just not going to age well. It might be received well initially, but the issue is it's just not going to hold up, because the media is hollow. The media is literally dated. And you see this with movies and TV shows all the time. A great example of this, we actually watched Robot Chicken not long ago, because I really enjoyed the Star Wars specials for Robot Chicken. I thought they were quite funny. However, Robot Chicken is a relatively left-leaning piece of comedy material, so it often has like dated jokes about, like, Bush, or the Bush administration in that particular era, or 2008 era, stuff like that. And the problem is that that's been over a decade now, and it's, to me, it was not very funny at the time, and it's even like more like whatever now, right? And the issue is that younger generations come in and they look at this media and they go like, what? What is this? What is it talking about? Like, what is this? Because it's too tied to contemporary politics. And because it's tied to the contemporary world itself, it cannot become immortal. It becomes dated. That's why Family Guy is like, it has no cultural power. It's just this thing that fades because it's referential. Referential humor can work to a degree if it's tied to media that lasts and has cultural impact, right? Like, example, this for a piece of media that I don't particularly care for, but I know you guys love, is Spaceballs, right? Or whatever it's called. You guys love that stuff, right? I don't find it that funny. It's super referential. It's tied to media like Aliens and Star Wars and other science fiction media, but it ages a little less well as time goes on than, the actual media it's actually referencing itself. Like Aliens has aged really good. It's pretty damn fine. Like, despite the timeline progressing and the computers look clunky, it's become a part of its art style for the setting and the universe. In the same vein, Star Wars has aged remarkably well for the original trilogy. The prequels are, still flawed but fun, and they've aged more or less about the same, I would say, in terms of quality. I'd say people look at them a little bit more leniently nowadays than they did initially, because standards were higher back then, but people have come to accept them for what they are now. And so because people accept it for being kind of great moments underscored by very mid build up and long boring moments, or just not very well written sections, people can get over it. In fact, they meme it. So it sort of, managed to survive the test of time. But other pieces of media like, those contemporary comedic stuff I talk about, that shit ages like terribly. It just doesn't have the staying power. Hell, I remember, like, as a little kid, I thought Jeff Dunham was pretty great. But now, like, some of those jokes, like, some of them are still funny. Some of them are. Like, the Ahmed thing's still funny because it's still relevant because it still happens. But
once again, like, these kinds of jokes only work in that very narrow window of a time period when that stuff's relevant, or specifically if you're actively aware of what's going on around that time period, and then you can remember it when you look back on it. So anyone not around that time period will not understand it, and the jokes will just be bad. Or
yes,
the references will
an
just
example, like,
not make any sense.
comedic humor is always meant to be dated, by the way. This is a bit of an unfair comparison. I want to highlight that real quickly, because comedic material like this, like Team America, is still kind of funny, but some of it's starting to get really old, right? Like, in terms of, like, some of it might not connect as much because it's not as applicable, but certain things are, right? This is all basically building a case about Halo, for example. Like, anytime they tie any sort of contemporary issues or gender politics or stuff like that into Halo, all it effectively does is date the media. And that's why the new Halo stuff doesn't hold up. The Halo TV show is forgettable. All the new Halo books are bad. All the new Halo games aren't very good, because they are influenced by this same mentality. And so they're just kind of disconnected with the rest of the world. It's just, the world itself took itself very seriously, and now you have media that is tied to the contemporary. And so it just, as soon as like a few years roll by, the people that even did praise it forget about it. So even the people that were left leaning that it was meant to appeal to, they're like, yeah, that's funny. That owns the guy I don't like. And then a week goes by and it's like, I feel nothing about it. And that's how they feel. They move on because it doesn't matter anymore. It's always about the next current thing. And this is how dead media can form, by the way. This is merely just one facet of a dead media forming. But it's important to highlight this because this plays a pivotal role in why media dies, in a sense. This is why, for example, Lord of the Rings survives. This is why, example, old Halo survives. This is why, example, why old 40K stuff survives. The new media is dead, and the IP is dead. Warhammer 40K is a dead IP. It is. Dead in the sense, not that it's not being worked on, dead in the sense that everything that comes thereafter is completely disconnected with what came before. Great example for Warhammer 40K was referenced by our boy Baffios, while we were just talking about this, which inspired this whole conversation in today's developer meeting, was that the dreadnoughts in 40K used to be about, entombing a venerable, soldier and stuff into it, versus now that kind of drifted away. It's no longer the mystic thing that it was, and it sort of shifted its tone, sort of losing it. Robert, not me. Whatever. Same thing. Now they could just put a dude in a suit, and it's like, oh, everybody's in a suit now. And it's like, it's not like a special thing. It lost what made it
If
special.
everyone's special, no one is special.
Yes. And the other issue is that with that sort of mentality is that it means that the creators coming in are doing something to sell new miniatures, but they're not thinking about the ramifications of the lore, because the lore doesn't matter. The setting doesn't matter. The story doesn't matter. The soul doesn't matter. And ergo, Warhammer 40K is dead because of it. Because of the fact that they don't care about what has come before and what was, and they're not respecting it. They're insulting it. But I think in this particular case, I don't think it's a direct insult out of malice. I think it's out of negligence. They cannot be asked to write something that would be respectful to lore. Rather, it's just easier to like, dude in suit, there you go, boop, done. Now, give me money, chop chop. The Gravy Brain Knights Dreadnought joke was showing the future, says Dauber. Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. Two things, by the way. I don't know if we got to it from Bathios. He wanted to point out, well, not one thing from Bathios, but then another thing. He says, this shit is not exclusive to the digital media. Have you tried to go to the theater or classical play, and every single one has been captured and always has some cringe modern message in it?
Yeah, it's not about the story or the setting, right? And it's frustrating as not just as a viewer, but even as a creative. It's frustrating because I'm surrounded by it, and it feels like there's nobody to talk to. I don't know, it feels lonely. Like, even in the creative sphere, when it comes to the indie stuff, it feels like a lot of people are kind of possessed by this ideological nonsense that it has to be in some sort of crusade against something. And it's like, instead of making a crusade about something, how about we just acknowledge what we are? We're entertainers. We're not here to really start a revolution. We're here to make people smile. Like, it's really just that simple. I'm here to make you happy. That's my sole existence for being. If I cannot achieve your happiness, then I shall cease to exist. Simple as.
Then Kibbs just fades away.
It's like, yeah, pretty much.
The other thing I wanted to mention and bring up here is the symmetry with the Halo stuff, and just how much is also pawned. Because yeah, once again, like everyone's a Spartan now. It's like, okay, how many of these characters? Because there's a lot of characters here. How many do you recognize, Kibbs?
I recognize. Let's see where my mouse is. Master Chief, Cortana, Sergeant Johnson. Nobody on the left. Beyond that.
So the white guy, the white Spartan, I have no idea who the name is, but that's from the mobile game. That's the main character in the mobile game.
Okay. That's supposed to be the Arbiter, but he's like wearing really
doesn't look
ugly
like the
armor.
Arbiter at all.
Yep, it's like they completely redesigned him. That's Locke, the guy I don't like. That's Buck next to him. There's 2 DEI hires there. There's some weird fucking Power Ranger.
That's the Halo 5 team.
Don't know who they are. Don't know who that is. Don't know who that is. Don't know. That's just the Sergeant Marine. Okay, and that's just a regular Marine from Halo 3, and they have no characters. But I don't know anybody else.
There's actually 3 Marines here, and then 1 Elite, and everyone else is a Spartan.
Yeah, it's like everyone's a Spartan. Well, because Spartans aren't special anymore. They stopped being special ages ago. That's why when I talk about Halo being a dead piece of media, it's that they don't understand things. Remember when we talked about Halo and I read the manual and what the manual said? You know what the manual said in Halo? It said that 0117, like, and I'm paraphrasing, John Spartan, blah, blah, blah. He's the last Spartan. There are no other survivors. It's just John. There's nobody else.
Yes, they are Uniless.
That's it.
It's also not Blue Team. That's Locke's team.
Damn, cringe. But yeah.
Reach died. That one character in the back with the Eva helmet, with the big dome helmet, might be a Reach character.
No, I wouldn't think so. If you think about Emil, he had a carving on his faceplate.
No, I wasn't thinking of Emil. It just something about it reminds me of Reach.
Because he carved a skull because he was an edgy boy.
Yeah, his is easily spottable, but I think another character had a similar, but maybe not. His is the only armor design I even remotely remember. That's because of the big skull.
Yeah, I don't recognize him in the slightest. But yeah, so dead media, right? Halo is an example of dead media. It is dead. To say otherwise would be a lie. It is a piece of media that still receives new content, but is essentially dead, and has been dead for a long, long time, actually. God, I don't really know. I think Halo probably, if we're to talk about when it died, we should probably talk about approximately...
The start of it was 4.
Yeah, the start was 4, but I think it died essentially when Bungie and the schism between Microsoft had boiled to a head, to the point where the authors were no longer allowed to speak to Bungie anymore. and were instead
Yeah, Reach was the very, very beginning of it.
yes, because during Halo 3's development, that's when the Forerunner books were commissioned, if I remember right. And so, if I remember right, around that ballpark or somewhere like that, I don't know if it was even Reach, authors were then explicitly told not to talk to Bungie and instead talk to the 343 dev team, which was forming, and they were the ones taking control. I think that is when Halo became dead media. It died relatively early on, but it was kind of hard to tell at the time because we didn't have the full picture. We didn't know behind the scenes. But it explains a lot. It explains why Halo 4 was disconnected from the rest of Halo. It didn't feel like it was the right. It's lost its soul, like we talked about earlier. If it loses its soul, there's a reason why it's not the same, right? After Bungie departed, Halo just felt disconnected. Reach felt bittersweet. Didn't. I don't know if Reach felt like a goodbye as
So
much as it felt like spite, as much as it
it
felt
was
like
spite. It was
spite.
done to spit on the books, is what it was done to do, because it completely retcons the Reach book, which was
But
made
at the
before the game
same
came out.
time, I'm not sure if I necessarily disagree with.
No, when we did a deep dive on
Yeah,
that more or less, and I understand why, or like why Bungie
it's because
felt the need to
Bungie
do
built
that.
Halo, and then Halo was ripped out of Bungie's hands, and then
Yes.
like random media started to be adding because like according to Bungie's lore, humans are forerunners. According to Bungie's lore, Master Chief was the last Spartan at that period in the war. There were no others. The reason why Bungie acknowledged Ensemble Studios Halo Wars with that Spartan team is surviving and Bungie was like, yeah, no, they did. That's cool. Is because Ensemble Studios worked with Bungie to make it as respectful to Bungie's lore as possible. And because they did that and they went through the hoops to make Bungie happy and be respectful and faithful, that's why I think Bungie was okay with those Spartans being alive. Because technically, they weren't really in the war because they were in cryostasis and they wouldn't arrive at all. And so, as far as everyone's concerned, Master Chief is the last Spartan because the other ones wouldn't be
Mhm.
there to help in any time.
But my slight issue with Bungie is they didn't have full control right from the get-go, because there's already books being made around Halo 1 and 2, like a book released alongside 2.
Yes, but I like the Halo books, but I might have an unpopular opinion here. The Halo books are a distortion of the actual lore.
Well, the book that covers Halo 1 like changes shit from the
Yes,
game.
all the books are kind of not faithful to the game, and that's kind of how we should view that, in my sense.
Halo has the problem of there wasn't any actual
There was
oversight
no
on any of
oversight,
it.
yes, because this Halo would be an example of the cubed marketing strategy by EA. But why did the cubed marketing strategy at EA? Well, actually, no, the cube marketing strategy actually failed, according to EA's executives. But
It
my
failed to
opinion,
meet their impossible goals.
I think the cubed market strategy actually worked, and EA is just stupid. What is the
I
cube
mean,
marketing
they are.
strategy? So, Chatfish, the cubed marketing strategy that EA did with Dead Space was producing multimedia to create a franchise out of a single game. They wanted Dead Space to rival Resident Evil, and Resident Evil is like the king of survival horror, right? And so Dead Space was EA's answer to Resident Evil. What is the cube marketing strategy? It's a multimedia project where not only will it be a Dead Space game, there'll be a Dead Space movie, there'll be a Dead Space webcomic, there'll be a Dead Space book, and there'll be a Dead Space web browser game. That's a point and click adventure game, and all these things, and even a Dead Space mobile game. Don't forget that, and an arcade game. Don't forget that either. And all these things tie in to the video game, but they do not step on the video game's toes. They respect the video game, they answer to the video game, and they adhere to the lore established by the video game. They do not contrast in the slightest. Why? Key thing about the cube marketing strategy: oversight. Assigning key personnel to oversight of all projects, meaning that all projects must adhere to the overseers, basically, who are watching the entire thing. Like, nope, that's too different. That needs to be back in line with the game like this. Nope, that character can't look that way. He needs to be a white dude. Nope, that guy needs to have they can't use the plasma cutter guns. They need to use these pistols instead because they do not use plasma cutters. That's the engineers that do that, and that's later in the story and stuff like that. So they start nailing down a timeline for the setting and a consistency basically weaving a very well-written story that essentially doesn't step on its own toes. That way, all pieces of media are all continuations, right? For example, Dead Space 1 has a prequel movie called Aftermath or something like that follows basically the what happened to the ship. Then there's a game for the Wii called Extraction, which follows what happened to the people on the colony. Then there's the webcomic, which follows a different group of people on the colony and what they did. And the game and all that, it's all tied together. But each piece of media is independent. Each piece of media does not require the existence of the other to exist, meaning that each piece of media is contained, allowing for
But
the multimedia project for the cube strategy to have different contained items that reference each other but do not require each other's consumption. Adverse to Halo. Halo fails massively. So once Bungie's out of the
especially with
picture,
5.
Microsoft tries to emulate the cube marketing strategy. However, Microsoft essentially fucks us up. There's no overseer for this, and also there's no plan. It's just a fucking chaotic mess. Halo 5, or Halo 4 would be a great example of this, because this is where it first goes into effect, introduces this character called the Didact. If you play the games and you haven't read the books, he's kind of like, who are you? But the issue is you need to read the books in order to know who he is, because
I hate that
the
kind
game never explains who he is. Now, the books being about him are fine so long as the game explains who this character is and gives him time to build up. The game fails to do this. You interact with him a couple of times and then he dies in the end. However, he doesn't die, because you'd believe that if you played the games. And if you tried to look at all the media, you'll find out he dies in a comic later on, because he actually survived and then is killed later. But the game's never established that. The game's never introduced this character well. And so if you're doing a multimedia project where you have a character storyline or like an antagonist storyline introduced somewhere, you can do that, but you need to make that media good. Where's an example of this working well is StarCraft. I, Minsk is a book. Or is it called I Minsk? I don't remember. Minsk. It's something like that.
I didn't read it.
It's
So I don't know.
about Minsk, and it's the entire book is from his like perspective, and it's like sort of like a biography about him as a character. He's the titular antagonist and one of the titular mini antagonists in StarCraft. He is, a member of the Terran Dominion, or he is the Emperor of the Terran Dominion. He helps bring about the downfall of the Confederacy. He betrays James Rayner and Kerrigan. But when you read the book, you don't need to read the book, if that makes sense, to understand him as a character. It merely just adds and builds on top of him. But the game, StarCraft 1, tells you everything you need to know about Minsk. Introduction. He is the would-be savior, rebel leader, trying to fight against the system to do the right thing, but then turns out that he'll go across any line to do what he wants. And then as you play further, it's revealed that he'll cross any line for his own personal gains. And it was never about fighting back against the corrupt Confederacy. It was never about saving mankind. It was never about anything, because it was all about his power, and he would sooner see mankind burn than not be under his thumb, not be under his control. He's a power megalomaniac freak, basically. And so the game teaches you everything you need to know about him. All the book does is just build upon his psychopathic tendencies and sociopathic tendencies. So that's it. It adds more context to the character, but is not required for consumption of the other piece of media. Adverse to reading the book Minsk does not require the consumption of the video game to get an idea for his character either. Both pieces of media exist in tandem with each other and add to the world, but don't require each other's existence. In the case of Halo, you kind of have to read the book to get the picture for the Didact, to play the game, to fight the Didact, and then to get the resolution, you need to read the comic to get the resolution. 3 pieces of media.
Yeah, which is terrible.
3 pieces of media, technically multiple books, to get the story of one character. Not worth it.
Now, I would argue 5 is a bit worse than that, because they make a book series building up a character that they kill off in the very beginning of the game. Without any introduction, they don't introduce who the character is. You wouldn't even know he's an important character unless you read the books. And they kill him off in a cutscene, and you don't even interact with him.
You never really interact with the Didact, do you?
And they marketed these books to build up, to basically hype up this sale of Halo 5.
Yeah.
Because I've read those books, and I was really getting into it, and then it's like, he's dead.
Yeah, it's like they build up this thing, they set up this thing, and then they don't have the balls to actually do the thing. They just sort of skirt around the thing and try to
Here's
drag it out.
another
And
threat
yeah,
that, like, we could continue the story off of, because he's basically organizing and gathering up the religious fanatics of the Covenant that have split off and basically are still
the
around after the
Covenant
Covenant were
character.
defeated.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
he's built up to be like, I'm gonna
And
be the restoring the Covenant, and then he's killed off in a
he was
cutscene.
initially captured, and they were experimenting on him from Oni, basically trying to develop a virus through potentially infections, bioweapons to deal with the elites if they ever, decide to stop being friendly.
Mhm.
And he eventually manages to escape from that, and then starts to rally people to basically kill off humanity. And they took a long time building up this character, and what happens? Oh, they make a line about he's basically waking up some form of attacks, and like the constructs are attacking his troops. And Halsey makes a comment about, oh, if you're the hand of the Forerunners, looks like your fingers are rebelling, and then they kill him. That's his entire interaction in the game.
Your fingers are the rebellion. That's so stupid.
Yeah, I remember that line.
And then he
It's
just
literally
completely
because
brushed
he was
off.
marking himself. He is the hand of the Forerunners, and he's gonna wipe away the scourge of humanity. And Halsey's comment is like, if you're the hand, it looks like your fingers are rebelling against you. It's like,
That's
so
pretty
fucking
dumb. It's dumb because if you're gonna
Yeah.
build up a villain and antagonist and spend so much time building them up, and then you just kill them off willy nilly, then you did nothing, right? It's like earning something. When you earn something,
Kinda like-
at least as a writer, hold on real quick. As a writer,
Mhm.
when I want to build up a villain, I'll build like each villain earns what they get, right? In terms of how much time you give them. So if I'm gonna make a villain that's gonna be in just a chapter of the video game, all right, based on that context, or of a video game or just a mission, then he gets a little bit of build up in the chapter, as much as we can, as much as we need, and maybe some environmental storytelling about him. But beyond that, he's not the main focal point. So he doesn't need to be the big bad. We don't need to spend hours and hours and hours building up this guy just for you to kill him and be like, all right, well, he's dead now. He's lasted 30 minutes, now he's gone. But you have the main big villain for the entire overarch. The main villain of the main overarch should be slow unveiling, little pieces, little tiny like etchings. And then even if you do confront the main villain, or maybe even you are able to like banish that main villain in the end, right? It's like, okay, how you handle that is how dangerous that is. How scary was this guy? Like, how much damage did he really do? And often I find the case with a lot of these stories, like, oh, we built up this guy for so much, and then he's just beaten, and then the damage he did was like inconsequential. Because it's the same as going like, oh, the didact, he like, he's using the composer thing on a city, and it's like, oh, the entire city's gone. As far as I'm concerned, nobody died, because that city is inconsequential. That location is inconsequential. No characters that you built up or established that I have any sort of attachment to were put into a real threat. Nothing really happened. The characters that were killed were somebody that didn't matter, that has no connection to the story. I don't feel like it matters, right? Versus Sergeant Johnson's death in Halo 3 is far more impactful because, I really liked his character, and to see him die was kind of, heartbreaking because I'd grown to attach to this character over the time I spent with him. Same goes for like Captain Keyes. Captain Keyes, goes down with the ship, so you earn a lot of respect for him. And then he fights a ragtag rebellion, so you care about him. And then you find out the twisted fate that he's, unfortunately fallen to the flood. And it's a tragic reveal. You hope it's not, he's coughing, he sounds sick, and Cortana's like, no, we gotta go rescue him. Like, he's just, he's delirious. He doesn't know what he needs. And then you get to him, and he's gone. He's the man that you were trying to save. You're too late. He's become a proto, what do you call it? Not Overmind. That's from StarCraft. Proto Gravemind, or whatever the fuck it's called. But yeah.
Yeah, Gravemind.
So basically, it's like super duper. Like, damn, we lost our good bro. Like, he's gone. Because we built up a connection to this character. Versus Halo 4, when the didact thing goes active, you go into like a asteroid that's under attack, and there's like a scientist lady there, and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna help you, and I'm just a scientist lady," and then she gets like converted into the composer, and it's like, you introduce
But
red
you don't because
shirt.
you're special.
Yeah, I know. You introduce red shirt character. It's like the problem that, and I like Star Trek, but it's the problem Star Trek has. Oh no, the red shirt guy who doesn't have a name and doesn't get a name.
He was never around before this episode.
He exists to die in this episode to show how dangerous the thing is to our main characters. But the issue is that trope kind of was okay in the 70s. I'd argue that it wasn't even good in the 70s, but like I wasn't alive then, so I don't really know. But
We need to, yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like there's a far better way to handle that narratively. You know what I mean? Like, instead, make it characters that we care about. And here's an example of it being done poorly. The Next Generation with Worf. Worf is a character we like. He's our cool Klingon buddy. But the problem is that
He's supposed to be super strong.
he's like, oh, he's a Klingon, he's super tough. But his sole existence for existing in TNG is that he can get his ribs broken and beat up by other races so that you can see how dangerous the other thing is. He's never killed. Nothing really bad ever happens to him that's permanent or dangerous, because that would be inconvenient to the story. There's no real sense of like, oh, could he die? There's no sense of danger. That's why when you're going to do danger, you kind of have to do something a little bit more drastic. Maybe instead of Worf, maybe something should happen to somebody else that's a little bit more, concerning. You know what I mean? Better ways to handle it.
Yeah.
Red shirt number 9,000. Yeah,
Worf's just a punching bag. Also, side note, one of my favorite lines from TNG is about Worf.
Yeah, what's that?
It's, Worf, eat any good books lately?
Oh, damn. You're John Delancey. Gotcha. Read any good books lately? That was good.
One thing you mentioned about the villain stuff, about the villains being like, oh, I'm here, gets dead.
But
that reminded me a little bit of like how they built up the Night King on Game of Thrones for like years and years, and it was one of the most unceremonious like villain dispatches of all time. Like it killed like the hype for the final episode or something, stuff like that.
Shigoi also mentions, side tangent, when Worf joined DS9, one of the conditions Dorn had was to stop doing that to Worf and treat him as an actual character. Yes, that is also why he gets treated like an actual character. Unfortunately, they just moved the punching bag to poor Chief O'Brien instead, where the like...
I mean, he deserves it.
No, he doesn't. His wife's abusive. His wife's a rancid human being.
I love jokes on Chief O'Brien. He's like, yeah, I never actually was paid. I would just show up and they would just eventually let me do lines.
Wait, what?
They're jokes about him and the actor and the character. Like, yeah, like he's not actually a character. That was just me just being on set saying shit.
Oh, you just showed up and did stuff?
It's not true.
Okay.
Mind you, Kibbs. It's jokes that ongoing about that character and the actor who played him.
Oh, John Delancey.
Yeah.
John Delancey is one of those actors that's just, he's an absolute treat in almost every role because he kind of gobbles up the scene. It's the reason why I like StarCraft Legacy of the Void. It's the reason why I like TNG. And it's the reason why I like Voyager, because anytime he's on screen, he just completely demolishes everything. He's just fantastic.
But to circle back on some things here, the key thing though, when these things have these multimedia things, the only way they actually work and aren't a complete mess is when you have a team overseeing everything to make sure that the lore and stuff remains consistent and connects. Yes. Which Dead Space is really the only one that really did it. And that's why all the Dead Space media we have is very good and it's actually consistent. It paints a very clear picture of the setting and lore.
Yes,
it's why it's making a mess of everything.
It's weird because it's never happened again. Like it never has. The only piece of media that has done that is Dead Space because of the cubed marketing strategy, and we've never gotten that a second time.
It's because EA execs, someone in higher up, obviously had a hate burner against the entire project.
Well, I don't know about that. They set the goals.
Well, they set impossible goals.
Well, so the issue is you got to think about the executives at the time, right? So when I looked at this, it's mostly that, but they have their item. My item is called Dead Space. It's my cheeseburger. I'm selling my cheeseburger to Chatfishes. How come the Resident Evil cheeseburger is selling like almost 27 times my burger. What the fuck? What's wrong with my burger? And they're like looking through the stuff. You
And then
know,
they did the same thing with the Dead Space remake. It needs to sell 1 billion copies right all like within the first
yes,
week. It's
because again, they're doing the same thing. It's in competition with Resident Evil. EA doesn't. Executives, I don't think see like you and I do or like chat does. I think they're looking at this like, yes, we have Battlefield to compete with the shooter market because that's the market. I don't really play video games because I'm an executive. I
they
maybe
have no actual understanding of
yeah,
video
and
games.
like
Yes.
Resident Evil is a huge. Capcom pulls in like millions and millions of sales, 25 million sales. I want that. Dead Space be 25 million sales, sells 1 million copies. Dead Space, you fucked up. You didn't even sell 10%
Dead
of what I
Space, you
wanted.
made us an actual decent profit, but it didn't reach this milestone. So
I know
therefore,
their milestone was 20 million, right, or something like that. And the thing they're competing with is selling 20 million, but their game sold about 1 million to 2 million copies. So it didn't even. So
On new
from an
franchise.
executive standpoint, yeah, they don't care about that because they're stupid. From an executive standpoint, the thing we sold didn't even come to 50%. It didn't even come to 10% of our competitor. It fell below like 50 or not. It fell below like 0.05% because we set an
so
astronomical goal that we cannot reach, and because we set the goal so astronomically high, when we see the results, we're not thinking in the short term. We're not thinking that, you know, we got to build this thing up, right? Resident Evil
that's
isn't
thinking
Dead Space
long
because
term,
Resident
not short
Evil.
term.
I know, but the issue is they're not thinking about the industry's history, right? Resident Evil pioneered survival horror. It did. It kind of like there were other games, but Resident Evil was the one that pioneered it the way it did, and then everyone copied it. Sega Saturn tried to release copies. You know, the N64 tried. Everybody tried to take a crack at that, and nobody could really capture what Resident Evil did. But they all tried to build on top of it. Some games, you know, were more successful than others, but the end of the day, nobody could really match that mark. And Microsoft thought, or not Microsoft, EA thought that if they just throw enough money at the problem, it'll magically build into a multimedia IP. Well, the issue is they did build a franchise. The issue is that Dead Space is kind of camp, or not Dead Space. Resident Evil's kind of campy. It's campy and charming, and it's very appealing to women. Dead Space is not campy at all.
That's why
It's not
I never
campy.
agreed with the Resident Evil survival horror, because even the original games, yeah,
Yes,
there's
I know,
horror
but
elements.
this is the market, right? I'm not
Yeah.
defending their view set. They're looking at it and closing their eyes and going like, okay, this is the survival horror market, the bubble.
So
I want some
I
of the
also want
money
to
of
point
that
out
bubble.
the EA executives. It's not even just they don't understand video games; they are actually incompetent businessmen.
Yeah.
Because any decent businessman actually looks at long-term goals and like, okay, our product didn't do so well. Let's figure out
Yes.
why instead of let's just
Now ask yourself,
cut out.
why does the executive view that though? Why are they thinking so short term? You know? I know you do. Why is the executive thinking short term in EA?
Golden parachute. He just wants to like get money fast and leave as soon as
Yeah,
possible. That's
these
what
executives never stick around. They're not interested in EA's long-term history. They're only interested in the quick money now, and then they're gonna go jump over to some other company.
you can kind of compare them to a guy that buys a bar that's beloved in the city because it's an old bar, but he bought it just so that he could burn it and get insurance money and leave.
It's not
You know what
about
I mean?
building
That's
things up because they don't care about the next guy who has to inherit his mess. I'm gonna take as much money as I can and go. And the next guy comes in, it's like, oh shit, this sucks. I'm gonna take as much money as I can go and get out of here. And then the next guy comes in,
it becomes
fuck.
a loop.
Yeah,
Becomes a loop of like assholes doing the same shit. Yeah.
where they're jumping and the thing gets smaller and smaller and they keep jumping, and instead of building up, right? Very few people do what we do, Champa, right? We made $120,000 last year. We spent like 100, I forget how much on the studio, right? How many executives make the same? Oh, there goes my phone. How many executives make the same and reinvest that money?
Very few.
Not many.
Right? Most of them are going to spend it on things for themselves, like the fancy yacht for their, high-end living bullshit. And some of them are going to spend it on, some of them are going to invest it, but they're not going to invest it back in the company they got the money from. They're going to put that money into other things. And so it's like, okay, as an actual businessman and an actual like capitalist, you're going to invest back into a company that you're working on, right? But the issue here is that these people don't care about the company they work in. They have no loyalty to that thing. They don't care about the quality of the product. They don't care about the consumer. They're here to gouge the ever-living shit out of them and run away with as much money as possible. So the big thing is that you get people like that. And these people are the worst examples of corporate capitalism. This is when you take an extreme, right? Because you've got extremes on all sides. You've got your commies who are just retarded. Then you got your like greedy, slimy little corporatist who's going to run away with as much resources and money as he can, not giving two shits about the company and its legacy because he's a subhuman like filth, just like the commie is. He doesn't care about his teammates. He doesn't care about the company, doesn't care about the product, and sure as fuck doesn't give a 2 cents about the consumer. Now what?
I do just want to point out that even when they're focusing on short-term gains, they're still retarded.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because let me paint a picture for you. Okay, so let's go back to Kip's burger thing. Okay, oh, so my burger's not selling as well. What's the smarter take? Figure out why and try to milk more money out of it, or completely destroy the burger and then invest and then pour money into now making hot dogs.
For them, that might be the case because a lot of these guys, some of these dudes are like, they come from like soap factories and shit for like executives. So they're not viewing video games like that. They're viewing video games as like product, video game product.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, Kips. You have a product that didn't quite reach your goal, but still made a profit for you. Do you now cut that entirely to create an entire new product that you have that might just be a money hole, or do you keep that other product and try to maybe see if you can get more money out of it or make it so you can get even more out of it?
Yeah, but here's what they do.
Because it is doing well.
So you know what they do? They keep that product, but they change the name of it, and now it's a hot dog. Welcome to Joe's Burgers. Here's your burger. That's a hot dog. No, it's not. It says burger on it. It says burger. That's Halo. Welcome to Joe's Burgers. Here's your Halo game. This isn't Halo. It says Halo on the box, doesn't it? It says Halo on the box.
Yeah, but that's still that's just taking the name though, Kips. That's not actually that's still having to spend money to create a new product.
But that's what they're doing. So the issue is that
and they're retarded.
Yeah, I know. I'm not defending it. I don't think they're smart in the slightest.
To be honest, I think.
Oh, there is also a thing chat wants us to go over then.
They're thinking about short-term changes, and they're also thinking about how to get money now, and they're not thinking about anything, right? Like, oh, fuck. Like, let's talk about what Halo's thinking about right now, right? What is 343 thinking about? We can't make new Halo games. So what is their new strategy? Let's sell them Halo 1 again, and Halo 2 and Halo 3, and the remaster collection. We'll remaster them, yes. But what are they doing in Halo 1, 2, and 3? Recycling assets from Infinity, or Halo Infinite, and not actually changing anything for the better, and kind of just being as lazy as humanly possible. Because that's the easy way, right? Like, for example, Microsoft. 343 sucks. How are we going to fix this? How do we fix that? We, delete that team and build a new team from the ground up and try a different take? That's expensive. That's going to take time. Instead, let's change. Let me get the eraser. Now it says, and let me write the new name. 343, or no, sorry. Halo Industries. There we go. The sign says Halo Industries. It's a new team.
You're forgetting that they did actually spend money to restructure. They fired all the ground workers but kept the upper management.
Yeah, but they do that for every game. That's Microsoft's MO. They do that for Halo Infinite. They do that for a lot of things. And we know because we have contacts. Because the big thing is that Microsoft's MO is, I don't like teams.
It's hyper. No, they are to go back to you. They are hyper focusing on short-term games. Do I pay the contract worker a tiny fee and then hire a new one in the next year? But like that's next year, so I don't have to worry about those expenses. Or do I hire this person who, in the long run, will actually save money because I'm not having to pay new people every
but he'll have to be owed raises. Fire him.
But he might have to get raised. But even though in the long term, it's significantly fucking cheaper than having to hire a new person, pay for them to be trained up, and then fire them and rinse and repeat every 3 months. But hey, in that quarterly report, you only had to hire them once, so it doesn't. So it's cheaper than having to pay this person's salary.
Yep, because that's exactly what happened with Halo Infinite. They literally fucking hired people, fired them, and then hired the next person. So how the code was in the backend for Halo Infinite was Bob's code, Joe's code, Frank's code, Chris's code, Jeanette's code are all on top of each other.
So that's why.
Okay, to give you an
That's
example.
two reasons. That's why, chat, the hyperspace or hyperslipspace engine that they were working on took so long to make and was such a mess. Even though they could have salvaged that engine and actually made it
If
a
they just
good
kept the
Halo engine.
programmers on board and then
Yeah, but they were alternating
just paid
programmers.
them.
So not only that was why it took forever, and then they ended up scrapping it pretty much right away because, well, the people who designed the engine, they're gone. Hell, they weren't even the same people throughout the entire thing, and so now they have to hire new people. And what's cheaper? Take time to train people on the new engine, and maybe even have to, my God, retain someone that you might have to pay a set amount every month to teach people the new engine, or just scrap the entire engine you wasted billions on, and just to have people just switch to Unreal, which people have industry standard training on.
To be honest,
Once again,
it's
ignoring how much money they poured into the product to make
The
it, because
investment, yeah.
all that matters is what the numbers are on the quarterly report. Anything that was spent or expenses before that of the last report doesn't matter. What matters is on what the current report is.
Yep, it's short-term thinking is the
It's
problem.
extremely short-term thinking.
basically what they're doing, if you try to do an analogy, is like they're starting a surgery with a more experienced surgeon, and then like they fire him midway and get a guy that just got out of college, and then they fire him a few minutes later and get another guy, and then they are trying to do this through the whole big surgery and hoping that for the best. You get what I mean? Like that's kind of what feels to me.
Well, yeah, that's why these games
Yeah.
have these issues, right? Versus before, right? Because we've talked about this. Oh, I'll read these donos because this is going to lead to the next important subject about dead games. And that's actually another huge factor. Chow Chow donates $5 and says, good things take time to build, or time to build up. It is easy to destroy things in regards to any profession. That's true. Investing time into something will see results, not necessarily immediately, but like anything, you'll get better at it, right? For example, drawing. We all can draw. All of you can draw. Some of you might be better than others. Some of you might not be very good at
I
it.
draw a minion stick
But
figure.
if you practice, you will get better over time. Investing into yourself will give you results. Bulbus donates €50 and says, mandatory Monday dono. Wish you all a good start to the week. Hashtag echoes, hashtag fit, hashtag cooking. Very generous. Thank you for your generous donation. Yes. If you would like to support the studio and get onto the Echoes thumbnail, or, well, it's not a thumbnail, it's a banner, you may do so. It's $25 for a pocket fish and $50 for a bucket fish. Thank you very much for your generous donations. Bucky says, I can draw with the heart of the cards. You little squirrel creature. It's like, squeak, squeak.
The
Squeak.
credit cards, yeah.
I practice to get worse,
Yeah,
though.
well,
Damn.
technically, does that mean that Buck was the one that drew Lift Surtail? Then, according to his logic, then.
And so, all of a sudden, there's a knock on the door. FBI, open up. Beaner died that day.
Then.
All right. Thank you for your generous donations. But yes, now we're going to segue into the other key issue. The key issue that all these things, I think, have in common. Both Warhammer 40k, Halo, Star Trek, Star Wars. They all suffer from this similar plight. This has to do with something we've talked about before in quite a bit. But this has to talk about the heart of a team, the heart of a project, right? What's the engine of a game? What's the engine of Star Wars? What's the engine of Warhammer 40k? What's actually the thing, pushing the thing forward? The thing that pulls it, the thing that moves it. Before anybody says anything, no, it's not the fans. The fans are there to support it, they fuel it, but they're not a part of that particular piece that drives it. It's actually the teams that create the thing. It's the writers, it's the artists, it's the voice actors or whatever, the programmers, the 3D modelers, etc., the animators, the riggers, etc. These people are the heart and soul of a project. And it's incredibly important that these people are not necessarily spoiled, given a bajillion benefits and bajillions of monies. It's important that they are looked after, right? That they are good in good health and in good function, right? They are working together, they're functioning together, they're producing stuff together. Because what happens when there's a schism and something doesn't click and doesn't work? You get a schism inside the team. What happens? You get conflicting designs, you get conflicting issues, breakdown in communications. You see designs start doing what we call drifting, and things start falling apart internally. And that will manifest on the surface and get really, really ugly. And how do you stop that from happening? And the simple answer here is communication. This is communication 101. How does a team not have these issues? Talking and honesty and transparency. For example, I'm the writer on our studio, so I write the stuff. I write lore, blah, 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 thing happened, et cetera, right? Salah is an artist. He paints picture, blip, 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 blip. There's picture of thing. And then Robin is programmer and animator. He click-clacks on his keyboard, makes the code for the thing to function, and he animates the picture and makes it move. All of us need to be in symphony with one another. We need to be communicating with one another on how things work, because if something is lost in the translation between each group, things get weird. There are breakdowns that have happened that haven't hurt games before. A great example of breakdown in communication would probably be StarCraft, where the lore for the Terran Marines assault rifle, or Gauss rifle, fires a basically like little dart thing, doesn't actually make sense. And it's because the art team wants a machine gun that shoots big bullets, go pew, 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 and has casings fly out, right? The writer wants a gun that is a Gauss gun that is accelerated and shoots little darts at enemies at hyper high speeds, right? And these guys aren't in communication with each other. And the animators are animating the shell casings like flying out of these things, and the sound effects guys are making sound effects, right? And so it's making all these different noises and all these different things, but it's actually a Gauss weapon. So what happens? Oh, fuck. This gun doesn't do anything that it's supposed to. Retcon time. So how do we fix this? The writer has to do the fun and god-awful experience of erasing a little part and writing something new. It's a chemically assisted accelerated gun. Ha! Fixed. It is now a gun that makes absolutely no sense, that has bullets that explode, but also are magnetically assisted to go faster? Question mark.
Oh, it's the first upgraded guns in Xenonauts. Got it. The ones you immediately throw away.
It's like, this is a very weird gun. Why does it do that? That's like a logistical weird thing. Like, why did they do that? Well, it's because, they wanted it to have pew pew bang bang sounds and have casings and stuff. But at the same time, they also wanted it to be futuristic. And because these two groups didn't come and communicate very well, it kind of is conflicted. Because if you ask most people, hey, what is the rifle that the StarCraft Terran Marines use? Most people are like, oh, yeah, it's like a big machine gun that Power Armor uses and shoots bullets.
Isn't it?
Well, not quite. It's a magnetic accelerated gun that uses chemically assisted bullets, which is weird. Which is weird.
By the way, Daniel, thank you for the donation, my dude. He donates $400. Good morning, Kibbs and company. Apologize for only being able to lurk during stream. I don't need to apologize, my dude.
No,
As
let him
long as you're doing
apologize. He donated $4.
Damn.
$400. He has the right to apologize.
good.
He has
I
the
have
right
been
to
hard at work and have been busy helping out my family. Ah, that's good. Family always comes first. This bucket fish wishes to help you out the channel by sharing some of my tax returns and yearly bonus. I'll be perfectly fine after this donation, so don't worry. Thank you, my dude. Thank you a lot for the donation, my dude.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much for
And-
the generous donation.
That's very generous. We very much appreciate it. That's very, very helpful. That funds an entire day and then some by $5.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you
don't
very
need
much.
to eat my brother's poisoned cookie anymore.
At least
Like,
for
holy
one
shit.
day.
Oh, you still will.
Yeah.
This-
The week's still young. That's only one day, Bino. We have
Damn.
6 more days to go.
I'm going to have to throw like rotten meat out like in a little bit. Like I'm going to drive, throw the rotten meat out, and buy some actual food. Yeah.
But yeah, so like when I explain this stuff, it's not that the issue here is that basically when you don't have a communication, like you have like, okay, we want it to be futuristic, we want it to be this thing, but then the writers have to write that because they have to think about it. And so the visual designers are thinking about the visual effects and stuff like that. So you get two conflicting things. This happens in various pieces of media. And this is where communication is important, because sometimes this happens even for me when a writer on our own project, right? I'll be writing stuff and the shields are orange for the builders for when they get shot at by like projectile weapons. And then Robin's like, "Hey, Kip." And he like, pulls on my little sleeve and I'm like, "Whoa, little sweet boy." And he like looks at me, he's like, points to a line of text and it says blue. It's like, "Oh shit." Oh shit. That says blue.
Yeah. Kibbs being inconsistent.
It's like,
Beat him.
because this is why it's important to always make sure you double check things and edit things, because sometimes you might slip up. Because yeah, that's an example of a slip up. It's orange in artwork because we've talked about it, and it says in lore it's orange, but in the picture it's blue, and that's not good because that's a completely different color. That's a completely different. But yeah, little slip ups like that. There can also be other things too, like accidents with like things from the art team where they accidentally forget to flip a layer back on, where Rhea's sword doesn't have a pommel, and so it just would slide out of her hand. And it's like, nope. Important to catch things and fix them and adjust them, because sometimes things slip through. How much to change the color to purple? Never. It's orange because I like the hue it creates when in dark rooms. It really is just that simple. It really is. I like how it looks with the lighting effect engine we have. Looks cool. Purple wouldn't look bad. It just would create a very different atmosphere because it'd be purple hue. But yeah. Let's see. And yeah, thank you again, Daniel, for your very generous donation. We very much appreciate that. So yeah. What was I talking about? Something about colors? Or no, wait. No, we're talking about the importance of communication. And so breakdowns in communication can lead to various problems, right? With writers not communicating with stuff. In the case of the Halo books, the writers didn't communicate with the game developers, and so it led to things not quite matching up all the time. Not that the books were bad, not that the games were bad, it's just there's a miscommunication, so it leads to what we call an inconsistency. This inconsistency is dangerous because it will create a separate idea, like interpretation of how things should work or how things should look, and it's important that these things are working together so that the thing is the same, because consistency and accuracy is important. Basically, imagine you're committing a heinous crime, chat. You've committed murder, and now you need to cover your trail. You can't let the popo find out you committed murder. So how do you do that? You tell a good lie, a very convincing lie. So you need to make sure that that lie is maintained all the way through, that all the evidence lines up to fit your lie. And so you need to make sure it's consistent. Basically, weave it like that, It's telling a lie, telling a falsehood, telling a mistruth, and doing it so consistently, because if you break that truth, off to prison with you. You know what I mean? That's how you should try to view it as a writer and as a creator and as an artist, to try to make sure it's consistent. And internal consistency is important because the audience is going to recognize that. Just like you guys noticed when Master Chief changed from Halo 1 to Halo 2 to Halo 3, right? In the same vein that all of a sudden you play Halo 4 and he's got a completely different design, and they have to, shoehorn, okay, well, he's different because, they changed him because
The cryopod
the
changed his armor.
cryopod did it. So we're establishing cryopods can change
Cortana upgraded
armor?
it while he was in.
How
he was
does
in
cryopods change armor? They didn't establish
Because Cortana
cryopods
did
could
it via bullshit.
there was like little mechandrites inside there that can adjust and weld plates and fabricate it. How did those plates get there? How did the suit get removed? How was he not damaged? It raises a lot of questions. And when you're telling a lie, you need to make sure you're doing it right. I'm very bad at lying, but fortunately I'm a good storyteller, so I must be good at something. I just can't lie right. Gotta work on that. Either way, just what? But yeah, so the big thing there is that you need to make sure that's consistent, right? It's believable. We have to be able to believe that Chief's suit changed in the cryostasis pod. Yet all visual evidence and clues have no proof of that. I don't see mechandrites inside the pod. I didn't see a welding thing inside the pod. And honestly, what happened to all the old pieces? Did they have to open the pod to do that? Did the pod remain closed while that was happening? And it's so much inconsistency because it makes no sense. It's nonsensical. It's revision and change for the sake of change. That's it. Remember when we talked about earlier? This is going to tie right back to creditation and pride, right? So I'm coming to work on Halo. Dup, 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 dup. Here come Kib. Uh-oh. And it's my turn at the wheel for Master Chief. Now that the Bungie team is gone, I get to take over. All right. I'm looking at this Master Chief fella, and I'm not sure. I don't really like the way he looks. I want him to be more, confusing and having more things on him because more doodads and knickknacks look cool or something.
That's the Final Fantasy effect. I don't know if you guys ever saw it. Whenever a Final Fantasy artist works on any character from any other IP, he puts 1 billion little details. Like there was
yes, but that's missing the point. So we got to get back to the point. So the big thing here is that the point of this is that I'm changing things to make it mine so that I get credit for it. It's my thing. I did that now. It's my Master Chief. And he's visually distinct and visually different than the previous ones. He's better than your silly, weak Halo 1, 2, and 3 Chiefs. That's what I've done there, right? Just like I'm going to change his character again. Also, I think Master Chief has romantic feelings towards Cortana because I feel like my Halo fanfic should be canon. And so all of a sudden, Master Chief has this weird romantic connection with Cortana all of a sudden. There's a lot of flirtatious back and forth things going on.
In the remake, he's going to be in love with the Microsoft Copilot.
Yep, but that's the thing I'm pushing for, what I mean, right? Because I'm pushing my version of the universe down people's throats. I'm not respecting what came before. I'm changing it. And so, okay, well, how do I get Chief to have a different armor? I don't know. Cortana did it while he was asleep or something. But how? Don't matter. Just ignore it.
Magic.
Magic.
She
Here's
activated
how.
the
Listen to
mini
this
Halo,
pencil
yeah.
noise. That's me erasing the previous stuff. There. That's me erasing.
And if you complain, I'm going to erase you from the company. It's like, oh no.
Damn. But you see the issue here, right? Because I want to make Halo my thing. I want Chief to be my Chief. I'm going to break his character. I'm going to change his visual design. And I'm going to start altering things to fit my desires. And I'm not going to really think about respecting the lore. I'm not going to think about, well, shouldn't maybe Master Chief still be in his armor the way it was in Halo 3? Because if I was respectful, here's how I'd go about it, right? I would make sure Chief's armor is the same. I would not visually change Cortana's appearance from Halo 3, because honestly, she should probably look the same, because showing her as different is just kind of weird. And I would also not change various weapons and looks of the weapons in general throughout Halo 3. Like the guns visually look like they're from Halo 3, so when you're playing Halo 4, they're not different. And then when the Infinity shows up, if we have to have the Infinity, the MacGuffin spaceship, then the guns that the Infinity bring look different, but mechanically are the same, just a different skin. That way, there's no jarring difference between the mechanical feel of the guns and weapons. You know what I mean? And so I'm being as faithful as possible to Halo 3 while paying homage and respect to it, while also building on top of it. Like, time has moved forward. Here's the Infinity, here's the new weapons. There's still the guns you know and love. Maybe they've got like an extra alternate fire thing, like an underslung grenade launcher on the assault rifle or something. Go ahead.
To be fair, though, Bungie wasn't even faithful to the design of the guns in 1, 2, or 3.
They kept changing them for mechanical reasons.
They kept changing the aesthetic of them.
Changing how many bullets they had. 32 to 60.
You need to also turn on Vulpus's Chatfish.
Oh, yeah.
And Daniel, if he has one.
He does not.
He does not?
Bulbous.
I think he came in, just slapped his wallet on the
No, he's
table
still in
and
chat.
waddled
He's right
away.
there. He's a tape on his end.
Is he?
Right there, look.
Daniel,
Oh, he is.
send me a DM on Discord. I'll give you, if you have a Chatfish, I'll make you an animated
wow.
chat.
Wow.
Animated
Bino's
Chatfish,
giving
Daniel.
away an
Just
animated
DM
fish. Oh, my.
DM Bino.
Bino's just adding to his workload.
Or Bino could DM him,
Bino's
since
just
his name is Dan and
Well, I'm already going to draw the fish. Like, the rest of the work is his. Like, he has to DM.
All right, Daniel, well, there you go. Bino offered you a free animated fish, and thanks. The next stream had a thumbnail made for it. Palo drew it. That's true, it does, but that's a test stream. I'm not using it yet, Killjoy. You are correct. Yes, the next stream I'm doing is of a mod that chat funded, but because I'm not comfortable just blind streaming it, I'm going to mess around with the mod first to confirm I know how to play it, because I want to try to get in the habit of, when you guys do paid requests, not going to them fully blind. So I have a little bit of background so that we're not like stonewalled by anything. Because some things in games I hit like a wall. And I don't want to just do the thing that you guys want and then just like as a checkbox thing. Rather, I want to put actual effort into the thing you guys fund and put more effort into it. That's what I'm trying to do anyways. See if that works. But I hope you guys like that method. If you don't, well, poop. But yeah.
Chatfish hate Kib.
Oh god, Infinite is the worst version of Spirit of Fire. The Spirit of Fire is visually distinct and beautiful. The Infinite's just like a tube. It is a tube. It's visually kind of just like a tube. It's like I'm a tube. I'm a tube. Giant tube. Giant. The Spirit of Fire has like a personality to it. And the
But
Pillar
that's-
Bottom looks like a gun.
Nah, the pillar of autumn is my favorite.
And the Amber
Because
Clad
of
also looks
nostalgia.
really cool. I like the look of the Amber Clad, the small little frigate thing. That's the one from Halo 2.
If Halo Reach they never removed the golden helmets and they talked less, that game would be so cool. I hate how they talk so much and they remove the helmets.
I still like Halo Reach. I
love it,
wish they
but-
just didn't remove their helmets. It's
Yeah.
a part of me likes the idea that Spartans had a sort of mysticism about them in a science fiction universe, right? So it's like, but they feel so sort of like mythic because you don't really know behind the mask, and it's like a mystery. There's like a layer of separation there that adds to their mystique. And I think it was a mistake in Reach to remove the helmets. I know they were trying to humanize them more, but I think humanizing Spartans, I think, is a wrong move. I think it's actually the opposite of what they should be doing. They should be held to a higher standard. It's why, I kind of have conflicted views about Space Marines for 40K, because they're like held to this mystic standard, and then the revelation is that they're just, very flawed people who are just like
Ride it out. Yeah.
they're like, oh, I just like brapping a lot, so I'm gonna become a Nurgle dude. It's like, okay. Okay. All right, if that's what we're gonna do. But yeah, that's more of like a personal preference thing, I suppose. If I remember correctly, the Spirit of Fire is a militarized colony ship. That's correct. It's a literal space RV turned into a tank, and I love it. Sorta. It's more of a invasion class ship. It's not really meant for combat. It's more meant to support ground invasions. So instead of like supplying colonies with supply stuff, it drops those command modules to basically drop down troops and reinforcements down to the battle zone. I don't think the Spirit of Fire is really meant for brawling, even though there was a broadside sequence with it, which is, maybe it was. I don't know. I've always been of the opinion that the Spirit of Fire was more meant for invasions and had the capability of self-defense. That's false. They like being beaten and can take a lot of it, so they become Nurgle. Wrong. They brap a lot. Just like, fuck, that's gross. All right, chat. My jokes aside. But yes, continue, Bino.
Continue what about the Halo Reach? No, yeah, like that's basically my whole gripe with it, because like there was one of the guys that never removed their helmet in the thing. It was the guy that had a school helmet. And then ironically he ended up being my favorite supporting character. Just because like I don't like the idea. I really like the whole like faceless hero thing, like where like there's a helmet, there's like a symbol that you see instead of like the person behind it, right? That's why I always liked like whenever they had Spartan characters in actual or Greek Roman stuff, or like the helmet covered the whole face. You get what I mean? And also because I was non-ironically like I was very surprised. Also, it was kind of surprised, but it was not a good one. Because another thing that like I like about the Spartans not having like faces that you can see is that that unironically helps with unity. Why? Because like it doesn't matter like which race. Like you can make you can talk about the sex of the Spartan, but that also doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because like it's just a Spartan. You know what I mean? It's kind of like it's humanity. You know what I mean? Like, and it was humanity against the aliens. And when you put a face to that, like super soldiers, like kind of like now it's not John Spartan or like whoever. It's like that Spanish dude or like that like American girl or like you get what I mean? Or like he's a Russian guy that they had on like Halo Reach and stuff like that. That kind of felt weird to me.
Yep. Well, it was them humanizing them too much because a lot of writers think that, how do I put it? I'm not sure. Chat, you'll have to let me know your thoughts on this because this is more of like a philosophical question for you guys. Do you, chatfishes, do you think you can like a character if you can't relate to them? Are you capable of liking? I know this is a question for them. You can tell me your opinion in a minute. Are you capable of liking characters that are unrelatable to you? Can you play a game that doesn't have literally me in it? Is that something you're capable
No.
of? And ask yourself that legitimately. Do you have to have a self-insert? Do you have to have the character be empathizable? Must it be absolutely, like it has to be just like, somebody you can kind of put yourself into? Or are you capable of liking characters and playing games with characters that are not you? Because I think the industry, misunderstands this quite a bit. But I'm not going to muddy the water, so I'm just going to leave it at that and go ahead and type your responses.
Every game should have a chatfish in it.
In my case, I normally like I try to relate to the characters in like what I would do in this situation. But at the same time, I can't play with characters that I don't relate to. You get what I mean? My only issue is that like if the character is consistent and is a character that is like interesting, like there's no problem. I'm trying to think of like examples, but I haven't been playing many games in the past.
Now, Chumpus,
Blade is a really cool character, says Sniper
read through the
Commander.
chatfishes and tell me how many of them, more or less.
Everyone's saying yes.
Yes
They
to
can
what?
play. They can like a character. Well,
Okay.
you kind of
Because
changed
yeah,
what
because
the question was
there's
midway through.
yeah, I was thinking about that in
But
retrospect.
to
I'm like,
answer, they're saying yes to they can like a character that is not literally them.
Yeah, because I'm of that opinion. Like, when I write the game, because the game we're working on is called Mixer's Legends of Terrestria, there is like a male character you do play as in
Celeste
the
is
game.
literally Kibbs.
But I hope not. But yes, why would you say that? Why would you sound mad at you now? But either way, so when it comes to so cringe. But either way, when it comes to characters, right?
I have
I'm
poisoned the
writing
well.
characters that I'm thinking to myself like, God, I don't know if I like this. I don't know if I could get along with this person like real life. But like as I write them, I'm wondering myself like, I wonder what people will think. Will people be okay with playing as a character that isn't like them? And is that cool? Because I thought about that myself. And I was of the same opinion that you guys are, chat. Like, I can play Tomb Raider. I'm not a girl, and I can play Tomb Raider. I don't have to, it doesn't have
Yeah,
to
you're
be
not a girl. You're a woman.
it doesn't have to be a dude. It doesn't have to look like me. Like, I can play games that have different characters in them, and it's totally fine. I could play a game about like a Tasmanian tiger and like be the little tiger dude and run around with little boomerangs, whatever that game. Ty the Tasmanian Tiger game. I remember that, and like it never
What?
really bothered
What
me.
is Kibbs going on about?
Like
He's trying to exemplify
so
like that he can
examples
play
like
games that
you can play
yeah.
games that aren't you, because
Yeah,
the
no, I
problem
get
I
what
see with
you're
the industry,
saying. I just the
yeah,
reference.
well, where I'm going right with these games is that it feels like the writers are like, oh well, if it's not the character, then they can't identify with them, right? So if it's not a white dude, you can't play him, chat. Because it's like, well, I don't think that's true. Because in the same vein, they use that same argumentation to go like, well, we have to make the character, gay and a woman because otherwise gay women won't be able to play gays and women. No, because there's two separate things. Yeah. It will never be able to play our game. So we got to do that in order for people to like the thing, right? And it's like, I don't think that's necessarily true either. Like, I think
What
most
about
people who play these games are probably look nothing like the character they're playing. In the
but
case of most games. Go ahead.
that's very true. But I also want to point out there is also another side to this, Kibbs, of can you enjoy and play a character that you're not always gooning to? Because
Yeah.
the answer for some people is no.
Sure.
No,
No,
I think
you
they
can,
say
right?
that because they're agitated, is what I think. So in the
It's
current day and climate we're in now, right? We're in a world in which everything is always online in terms of conversation, and everyone's got their hot take about every game, right? And the reality is that you like the games you like. Simple as, right? You like the
Mhm.
characters you like. Simple as. There's really nothing. My opinion is irrelevant, just like your opinion is irrelevant. What chatfishies enjoy is what they enjoy. And if, I think a lot of people, when it comes to that question, like a Gooner game, right? So let's focus on, like, what does that mean, right? Can you play a game that has a character in it that isn't like, it's a woman character, but it's like, oh, she's just, she's all right, but she's not like super sexy. She's just okay. But the game is fun. And I think the answer people will say is, yeah, the game is fun. It's still fun. It doesn't have to be super sexy.
Yeah,
But the big problem,
there's
I
a
think, is
difference.
Then I
the
think
issue.
you're misunderstanding what I was talking about, Kibbs.
Maybe.
There's a
Well, let me finish
difference
this thought real quickly. Because I think the issue is that people really take is okay, if they make the character and she's just a chick you play as, but she's fucking, super hideous, and she's
Yeah.
like super unlikable, and it's done explicitly with the intention out of malicious nature to make fun of you and not like you, then yeah, I think the player's going to take issue with that particular case because, well, it's actually just insulting them now. I think people are actually willing to play characters that might not be as interesting so long as the game is good. And there's other things to grasp onto there. And I don't need a character to look like me to want to play as it, nor do I need the character to be the same gender as me. I just want my game to be fun and good. And if my game sucks ass, well, it sucks and I don't want to play it.
Because I was referring to specifically the character you're playing as. Because I know for a fact there is people, even people, chatfish here,
Chatfish?
who physically are incapable of playing a game unless the character they're playing as or looking at is sexy.
I don't believe that.
I think there's a
And Bino's an example of this. He literally only plays games with mods that make the character naked or you can see their ass.
that's not actually true.
Actually, it might be
I
true.
only use
Bino, your
no,
opinion
the thing
is
is
no longer relevant.
India
He's like, what?
does
No.
that as well.
Yes, true.
okay, let's
So, okay, this is true to a degree because when it comes to certain games and certain things, everyone has a preference. There's nothing wrong with this, right?
I'm not
I
knocking anyone with
For
that
me,
statement,
I
mind
know,
you.
I was
yeah, I
trying
know.
to
For
say
me, I like stories and world building, and I like to have a setting and a universe to get to be involved in and be interested in, right? It might be an autism thing, chat, but like when I kill dudes in a shooter, I want to think that every dude I killed is one less dude in that organization or that faction I'm fighting, and I'm
that
slowly
word, yeah.
systematically defeating them, one dude at a time, right? Like when I play Halo now, I like think about every unit I kill, and I'm like, I killed that dude, and that's another carcass for the flood to eat, and so I'm just feeding them. So it's like and maybe because I've played that game so much, so my mind has now switched to that thought process. But I usually have like a narrative in my head, like, yeah, I'm like doing a thing, or like when I'm playing Command and Conquer, I'm like, yeah, the GDI took back, Greece, debt, woohoo, you know what I mean?
Um, I think it's like is a issue that has more than one face. Like one of the issues is games have been ugly for so long that like sometimes like I just want to look at something that's not hideous, like you mentioned. Uh, I know that in my case, I have one issue that's like the whole world building stuff that people give, because like, oh yes, we have hideous ugly characters, female characters, because it's apocalypse or some other, because like they're struggling. Okay, all right, I
I've
can
never
understand that.
heard that, by the way, but I can see that.
Several, some chatfishes were giving me that excuse for Remnant 2, for example. All right, I understand that. But the issue is, at the same time, you have feminism, you have like DEI, you have like all these things that if they were actually hurting for food and security, they wouldn't have like all this like
Yeah.
modern stuff. You get what I mean? So like,
So Remnant 2's intro is rancid.
No, it's not just the intro, it's other stuff. Like for example, I can play games that have gay stuff on it. I honestly don't care as long as you, but like as long as it's not super big, right? But the issue is when I see gay stuff and I see that there's nothing for me, and it's I know that you spent money on other stuff that a smaller percentage of players would actually enjoy. But like you guys are like evil, like the male gaze or blah blah blah. You get what I mean? That's when I start noticing this whole thing, and some other chat features are like that. There's always the kind of people that are kind of crazy and like if I don't see exactly myself in the character, I don't like it. But not crazy, but like they have that very hard line like view on it. I was even going to ask. Ever since I was a kid, I always imagined that okay, I'm the elder thing that's controlling this guy in this other world. And like he or she lost control of her body, and like she is basically like to that character, this is a nightmare. To me, it's just a game. You get me? I always imagined that ever since I was a kid playing Mario. I don't know if that's
Uh,
how other people see it. I don't. I never self-inserted as the
I
character.
think Bino's
a lot of
rambling.
people do
Completely.
Kill
self-inserts.
Bino.
But also, Indio says, is Bino making excuses for playing with horny mods? Indio over
No,
here calling the, you know,
Pot,
the
kettle,
pot calling the
black.
kettle black. Yeah. Mr. Oh, I have to be topless because I want my character to be sexy. I can't wear pants because I
See, the
want to
thing
look
is,
at
I
my
don't think
thighs.
that's an invalid thing to want, right? Like, for
No,
example,
I'm
characters
not.
being.
I'm
Now,
not.
moving on. So, characters being attractive and sexy is important to a degree because the power of sex is something that should not be an understated element. I mean, I'll be real. I explicitly made the characters in our game sexy for on purpose because um, I personally, when working on characters, don't want them to be, uglier than potato all the time. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I do believe in
Same with the
contrast,
Ubisoft
right?
devs, actually.
So when it comes to our game, like, and other people, I think that the contrast is good. So I think that there should be good looking characters, and then there should be meh characters, and there should be ugly characters. And the reason why you should have a dichotomy of all these things is so that you show how expansive the world is. Because if you don't do that, then everything feels cookie cutter, and everything feels like the same. And what was pretty is now normalized. This is my problem with gotcha games, because everyone is trying to look pretty all the time or handsome or whatever, and so they all look the same. It just feels dry and sterile because they're all the same looking. And
A lot of
so,
gacha games very quickly fall into we're just selling softcore porn.
well, I don't even care about that. That it doesn't matter to me. Like if they're selling porn or not is irrelevant. I just don't like how everything just feels the same. I want variety because I think contrast is what
um,
helps pop things. So, for example, having a beautiful character and then having other characters not be beautiful helps pop the character that is beautiful, and that actually can become a part of a narrative element.
yeah, but that's the issue is that in gacha games, every character is like
Yeah, well, gotcha games are
super perfect,
explicitly to.
and
Yeah, but gotcha games are
and
again,
the
it's appealing towards particular like desires. So a gotcha
mhm.
game is not really applicable in this conversation because it's not really the same thing. It's
Borderlands could be an example because Borderlands 2, for example, they have Mad Moxie. That's a cute-looking character. You
an
get what I mean?
old whore.
And just talk about
I'm right though, and you
aesthetics.
know it, Bino.
Bino
Yeah,
likes them
yeah, no, but like,
old.
and you have like the
Wrinkly.
Phoenix, like the red head, and then you have the when the fat girl appears, the one that's super fat and ugly. It really is like, oh my god, you're really ugly. You gotta be
Yeah, it's also done
because
for
there's
comedic
yeah,
tension
yeah,
because
but
the
there is
one
that
guy, the
contrast.
mechanic dude, is like super into her, isn't he?
No, he's her sister. He's
Oh fuck,
her
I can't
brother.
remember. Fuck, they're incestuous. I knew it. No,
No
I'm
one,
kidding.
no one's into her. No one's into her.
Damn. But yeah, no. No, you're right. It's just like that's good because it's contrasting. Because it just shows that the character is more than just a the world is more than just a one trick pony. It's like when you have a character and the character's centered around, right? Recently we were showing Chatfish's the Resident Evil movie series. The Resident Evil movie series is a series of movies that are based on the games or inspired by the games is more accurate, and there's elements of the games in them, but it's actually just a fan fiction about one person's self-insert character who's their sexy character who's doing all the things in the movies. And it's like the most high budget, like fan fiction I've ever seen. Like, it's a multi-million-dollar fan fiction. And it's funny, and I find it really fun to watch the Resident Evil movies because it's essentially just that, where you watch this fan fiction style character who's basically perfect and is an exemplary Mary Sue in this particular aspect, where she sort of just gets given things and she doesn't really have to earn anything. And everyone's kind of like there to support her, but no one's actually independent of her. And it's remarkably fascinating as a story. Mostly because I've never seen a high budget production of that. Like on like a 6 movie like series where it's like a fucking like six trilogy or whatever the fuck you want to call it, 2 trilogies of movies that are just about this one character. Like, and it's just nuts. It's just nuts. It's not a good movie series, but it's a fun movie series in my opinion. Let's see. Richard Phillips says, personal. I think most games should have custom characters unless they are very heavily narratively based characters. A lot of the time, it's just the dev being a bit hipster. It depends on the story, but I can totally see what you're saying. So for me, as a designer and as a writer, the only reason why I would give you a custom character where you can build a custom character is if the game is built around the concept of that entire thing. Because the game needs to be built around the idea that you are a custom character. Because originally, in the original draft of the game I had developed, the plan was that you'd actually make a custom character. I ended up doing away with that because I actually found that the custom character ended up actually constricting and not helping the story actually be stronger, and made the story kind of weaker because by adding a bunch of choices, I had to add choices to a game that were more feeling like binaries than they were like actual decisions that have impacted not just the story but also the gameplay, which led us to the conclusion about the micro decision theory, which is the idea of making decisions and throughout a chapter that basically compile to a direction and then something like that. But there's experiments to be conducted there before the finalization process. But either way, the idea is simple, right? It's sort of like Mass Effect. Mass Effect, you don't really make a custom character. You aren't a custom character. You are actually just Shepard. You don't really, you have a binary of like yes or no, and that's the BioWare binary. But an example of that not being the case would be probably something like Obsidian Entertainment's Fallout New Vegas, right? In Fallout New Vegas, you are a character. No, you have a little bit of a history in the world, but you have really no attachment to the world. In the same vein that in Skyrim, you don't have the same attachment either. And so you're kind of like a wandering vagabond going from place to place, weighing in on locations and basically being the thing that tilts the scales in either or. And that's kind of how they do it there. That feels a little bit sort of like you're the chosen one doing the chosen one task. And so it doesn't really feel like it's that, which again led me to the decision to, instead of doing like the chosen one theory, or the custom character route, rather just being like, okay, you're a character in a world, and it's actually a rather larger story than that, rather than constellating an epic. And an epic story structure, it's sort of like Lord of the Rings, right? Or StarCraft. StarCraft would be a video game that does an epic story structure, where each episode is from a different perspective of a different faction. And so you're kind of doing an epic story, but you're also showing the opposite lens of the factions as well, as they're all fighting in the same thing, and it's episodic. So episode 1 is the Terrans, episode 2 is the Zurich, episode 3 is the Protoss, and the story is done in that sort of structure, and sort of progressing forwards to the end, right? The climax. That can work to a degree, but it's really just down to how you want to have your story and what it is you're producing. So if you're making a game or a narrative in your story and you want the world and the story to be better written, it's actually better to lean away from a custom character. Not because a custom character is bad at any stretch of the imagination. They have their strengths, and they actually have a lot of very powerful strengths, actually. It's just, if you want to tell a story about an event in an area, and you want that event to have more connection, and the character that you have the player play as to have more connection to the world, the character they need to play to should be rooted in the world they are in. And a custom character, there are attempts from various studios to try to root a character, but the issue with custom characters is they're never really rooted, because of how custom characters kind of function. Because a custom character has to be a template for you to lay various types of archetypes over. It means that the world they're going to be in is going to have to facilitate those archetypes in that design, which means that they cannot be rooted. Because if they're rooted, they fundamentally cannot function. Because you can't make a custom character that's rooted. You'd have to make several different trees And then, in essence, that'd be several different games. And that would be nuts from a development standpoint. Not that it's impossible. It is possible. It's just
Um,
production-wise,
it,
you're producing 7
okay,
different
it's
games.
possible, but like, let's be honest.
Well, here,
When you think about
example, Bino. Deus Ex is a game that is called an immersive sim. Immersive sims need to facilitate multiple routes to beat the game. Non-kill routes,
no, that's not
passive routes like
what I
that.
meant.
Yes, I know, but it's still fundamentally the same thing, right? Because conceptually speaking, that's why immersive sims are hard to develop. They're difficult and they kill a lot of studios that work on them. They kill a lot of studios because they're not making one game when you make an immersive sim. You're making several games in one game's body. And it's not easy to do. It's very difficult. And that's why
Oh,
a lot of studios are scared of making those games.
what I was going to mention is like about the custom character stuff. Is that, for example, how many when you think about famous, well-known video game characters, I don't think I can think of a single one that's like custom. You know what I mean? Maybe maybe like Shepard a little bit, but even then, like he's not that famous compared to compared to like Mario, Kratos, you know what I mean, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, and whatsoever. Most of like the iconic or even like well-known video game characters, well-loved, like and stuff like that, is like not custom characters, is like pre-made characters. Even the Dark Souls, for example, Dark Souls, you have a custom character. But most people they remember like a Dark Souls 1, you have the Ostrava, sorry, Demon Souls, you have the Ostrava armor, the fluted armor. Dark Souls 1, you have like I forgot the name of the armor. Dark Souls 2, you have the armor, the armor that's the Dark Souls 2. Dark Souls and so on. You get what I mean? Even when it's a game that has a custom character, it's not really custom. Fallout New Vegas, you have that helmet with the thing that everyone thinks about Fallout New Vegas. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the big point I was getting to is essentially that there is no such thing as a perfect answer to what to do, a custom or scripted character. They each have their strengths, and the reason why you're developing what you're developing, if you're doing a custom character, then the game should be built around the concept of you doing a custom character. So that should be the core design of the game. Because if you don't build it that way, you end up with a situation where you end up with something like Shepard from BioWare. What's the problem with Shepard from BioWare or BioWare stories? You have the illusion of making a custom character, but your character actually already has a history. You're not really making a character. You have a binary option because they can't drift too far either because you're rooted. Like, for example, in BioWare's Knights of the Old Republic, you've got Revan. He's either good or evil. That's kind of it. And there is like you can be neutral, but like that doesn't really matter. Like it's good or evil is the real answer. And the also thing is that there's the true ending and the false ending. And the true ending is the canonical ending, and then the false ending is the option you can choose to do, like being Revan and being evil is a fun route, but it is not considered canonical, and nor is it considered well made because they also kind of just sort of shoehorn things, right? And that's kind of the issue. That's why I think custom characters are fun in certain games and work in certain games. But that's why, as a creator, when you're working on a game, you need to have a clear vision of what it is you're trying to work on. And then that's when you decide, do I have a custom character or do I have a scripted character? Is the player playing as, Frank Halo because they can make whatever Master Chief they want? Or are they playing as Sierra 117, John, Master Chief? Even though Master Chief is blank, because you're supposed to be able to easily insert yourself over the top of him, he still is a character, even if he is blankish, just like Shepard is still a character. It's again entirely a choice, and it must be done entirely to the benefit of the game you're making. That's it. If you're making a custom character game, you need to make characters for the custom character for the game, right? And the game should be built around that concept. If your game isn't built around a concept of custom character, then you should probably stick to a scripted character, a la Nier Replicant. Nier Replicant or Gestalt has a scripted character. Scripted character is Nier and is a strong story. If you have a custom character in a story that's not built for that, you will have a bad game. Just like if you make a scripted character in a world that's supposed to be open world and explorative, you might actually fuck yourself because now you can't explore that world the way that it should be with the freedom you have. Take care, Moogie. But that's
Have a
it for
good
that.
one, Mooks. But also, if you don't have custom character, you should make use of having a set character, not just have blank slate character when a custom character would have been probably better.
Yes. Scripted characters narratively are usually stronger vessels for stories than a free format character. Just net truth. Because Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, while interesting stories, the weakest components is the custom character every time. Mostly because the custom character is actually the weakest narrative element. But the focus is not on your character, it is on the world. And so that's the important part. You pull away from the character, you pull towards the world instead, as a substitute. And that manages to work there. And it works, I think, relatively well in Fallout 1 and 2 narratively, even though the games themselves are not very good games. But I think narratively they hold up relatively well due to the fact that the writing is stronger in that field. However, after playing Fallout 1 and 2 and fully discovering them, they're not very strong narrative games either. Because you're a custom character, the companion characters are actually worse off because the companion characters aren't allowed to breathe at all. In the first game, they're just terrible. In the second game, they're a little better, but they also flatline because you have a custom character, they have no idea what direction to take for your character, and so those characters can't interact with you in any interesting or meaningful ways because there are no interactions. Follow me or don't. Follow me or... And that's one of the issues when you have like a party system, right, with characters. And I'm skeptical as to whether that was like the intention, but yeah, either way.
There's not many game. In fact, I can't think of one right now that handles a party system well, especially open world. Like they're almost always clunky or not really good.
It's tricky because you have to
I
tackle
can't think of a
each...
game that actually does it well, where they aren't just kind of tacked on and clunky.
Yep, because you have to handle each zone, right? Because if I write a character and his name is, Sturha, and Sturha accompanies you to Planet P, and then he also goes to Planet Z. The issue is that what were your interactions in Planet P? Did anything happen in Planet P that helped drive his character? No. He just had some random dialogue in the background. This is where we enter the Mass Effect problem. Mass Effect's problem is that the characters, because you can freely choose which characters to bring with you, which is really cool for a gameplay choice, because it adds a lot to the gameplay. There's a lot of strength there. They can't do a whole lot narratively there. And so they can only have some banter between each other. And so that's why when you bring a character with you, it doesn't really affect things. You might get some interesting banter triggers, or the alternative is you have to have a scripted section where you have to bring a character for the character quest. And then that works a little better because the character is actually able to develop because it's linear. Linearity has its strength, just like, linearity has its weaknesses. And that's why it's one of those things you got to kind of work with. Keep writing my character with my name. Stir strong now. You did it, Juro. You did it. But yeah. So it's like basically the entire concept, right? So you have to have character development at some point in the story. And the hard part is when you have a free format where the player can choose from a list of really fun, cool characters. That's cool. But the downside is narratively, how the fuck do you write that so that characters can have progression that's meaningful? Because if you don't bring Sturha to Planet P to get that meaningful progression and you chose not to, now is Sturha ever going to get that character development ever? Or do you just simply ignore it? See the issue here? It opens a paradox because if you close your eyes, you can actually see a web. At least I assume you can too, chat. Okay, if you're driving, don't close your eyes. But you see like a web of decisions, right? And each path you take branches to a different section, which will have different dialogue because the character will evolve differently. By having a free format or a custom sort of more open-ended system, you're going to have less meaningful choices. Your choices actually carry less weight. And that's, I think, the issue. That's the issue I think Mass Effect sort of taught me when looking at it, is that you have a lot of what looks like big choices. Who sits on the council? Is it Udina or is it your friend? I can't remember his name. Oh my god, I can't believe it. I like how I remember the loser's name, Udina, but I can't remember the actual other guy's name. Fucking A. But yeah.
I don't know characters.
So whether you do that or whether you don't, it doesn't matter. All it gives you is a dialogue line in the next game. Whether you kill the council or whether you don't kill the council, a big decision. It actually doesn't matter. Whether you help the bugs or whether you don't help the bugs. 5 points to Gryffindor is what that means for the war score.
I mean, that's the major problem with multi-path stories when you try to do a sequel.
It's like its value is actually lost as time goes on. So the merit of that choice is strong, like in the role play sense, it's strong. But in the game world itself, it is actually Anderson, thank you, Cobra. I'll read your donation in just a second, Richard. I gotta complete my thought or I'll get deranged or deranged.
No,
Derailed.
deranged is right.
But so like you gotta think about like, okay, so like if I have a decision, I want decisions, at least philosophically from my personal lens. And there's no right answer here. So if you're a developer and you're doing something else, nothing wrong with that. But I want narrative decisions to affect gameplay as well, so that the choices you make are meaningful, not just in a narrative sense, but also in a gaming sense. Like whether you chose to go down a certain thing or did something, whether you brought that guard with you or didn't bring that guard with you, might change something in a short term. A smaller decision with a smaller impact that might lead to something in the greater short term of that chapter. Then compartmentalizing that and then having a tie-in, because you have to have tie-ins. Without tie-ins, it's chaos, chat. It's pure chaos. But either way, that's my little tangent thought, basically completed. Now for Richard's donation, which is a generous £5. He says, I don't think bland CCs matter because they build the narrative around NPCs or companions, and it's easy to relate to bland. That's true. That's actually exactly the strength of, not Master Chief, my brain. Well, I guess in a sense, Master Chief too, right? But as well as Shepard. Shepard's strength is Shepard is fun. But Shepard is also not the most important thing. Whether you're a dude, whether you're a gal, only really matters because of who you can romance. That's the only mechanical function it actually offers. Other than that, it's just voice lines. So other than that, it doesn't really bring a whole lot to the table differently there. But the interesting thing is not necessarily Shepard's character. It's the focal point is on the setting and the world. Again, there is no wrong answers either way, whether you do one or the other. It's all about why you're doing what you're doing, right? In my case, the conclusion I made for my own project was that I didn't want to do a custom character in the game I'm developing now, because when I do a custom character, I want to make the custom character have more meaningful choices in the future. Because I want to build a world, and then once I finish building the world with the world established, then I want to create a more sandbox experience in the future. At least that's my personal plan for my own stuff. Because by establishing a greater world, we can then establish great events and then allow the player to participate in that world as if it were like a sandbox in more unique ways, because we've now established something. But yeah, you can also do it, the Mass Effect way, where you establish it as you go. There's no wrong way. Again, I want to emphasize there's no wrong thing here, because there really isn't. Both these things are not only valid, but it's just about how you want to make the thing you're building. And build it the way you want to. First Dead Space, Isaac Clarke. That's true. You're absolutely right. Isaac Clarke in Dead Space 1 is not even a character. He is, he is a character by definition.
He doesn't talk
say
at all.
Nothing. He goes,
He actually doesn't interact with the world in any way, besides to just scream when he gets hurt.
like that's all he does. And then Dead Space 2, Isaac Clarke starts to talk and is a character. More of a defined
very
character.
Comical in Dead Space 1, where people are talking to you and you just stand there and stare blankly at them.
Blinking. Yes. Now, some people might like the Isaac Clarke's character in Dead Space 2. Some people might not like Isaac Clarke in Dead Space 2. This is, again, a subjective point, meaning that there is no right or wrong answer here. Now, there could be an argumentation made that I wouldn't agree with, but this is the argumentation I would make for being a purist and sticking to the original. I'd be like, in the particular case, it would have been nice if they had preserved it the way it was in Dead Space 2. But the issue is, I see fundamentally there is that at that point, we might as well just get rid of Isaac Clarke's character, because Dead Space 1 kind of fulfilled his blank arc as it was, which was to find his girlfriend. And that was it. That's it. Find girlfriend. And then you complete Dead Space 1, you found out what happened to girlfriend. The end. Dead Space 2 has to expand him naturally, because, all right, that goal is now gone. What's his next goal? crap, we didn't write much. So he's a son of a big mining dude. The mining dude died. His mom was crazy and joined the cult thing, and so they start building on his character so they can work with him more there. He becomes a stronger character in Dead Space 2 than he is in 1. And that's why in Dead Space 2, I actually prefer Dead Space 2 over Dead Space 1. Narratively, I think it's a stronger
That's
game.
why I like the remake so much.
Yep, because that's the one thing I think the remake does well. There's some things I don't like the remake for. Like, I do not like how it changes the characters' like faces. It changes the art direction. I think they should have stayed with the original art direction for the faces and stuff like that, and made it a little cartoonish, because that Dead Space isn't photorealistic. It's actually cartoonish. I think that doing photorealism was wrong, and I think that was the wrong direction to go for. Because they did try to go for a photorealistic look in Dead Space Remake.
They did, but they also did make the ship look very pretty.
Yes, like I said, it's a mixed bag.
It works really good for the environments, but yeah, I agree with you on the character. Should have been a bit less photorealistic.
Mm-hmm. But yeah. Richard says, well, I dislike games where dialogue is just clicking through and answering. That's interesting. I don't think we're talking about
Most
that.
of the MMOs.
Oh, I suppose. I guess if we're talking about World of Warcraft, yeah. World of Warcraft is sadly just that. It's unfortunately... I'm interested in that girl. Please give this ring.
Kill six orcs.
Get bare ass. And it's like, okay. Thank you for the bare asses. Here's this will help me with my bare ass collection.
Acquire shrubbery.
Yes, that is not very interesting. I agree in that case, Richard. Because the problem is that the dialogue is just... That's it, right? Dialogue should never be that's interesting. That's bad dialogue, in my opinion. Mostly because characters should be talking to each other with purpose and reason, and they should be talking. If they have something to say, they should be saying something for a purpose, right? The issue we run into now is we've got a lot of what we call Marvel writing, where it's just like blah, 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 quip. Blah,
Everything
blah, blah,
you
blah,
need to
quip.
have a quip every couple of minutes.
And so there's no substantive value to anything anyone's saying. It's blah, 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 quip, blah, 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 quip, plot, quip, plot, quip. And it's like that. It's like a melody, almost like it's like a song, right? And that's the fundamental issue with that style. It's not natural dialogue. Nothing's being said. The characters aren't developing. Nobody's saying anything that's developing them as a person. Versus the dialogue in Dead Space 2, Isaac Clarke, the things he say isn't, that's interesting. It's, meeting Ellie, discussing things, trying to calm him down. Like, Ellie, wait, no, don't go yet. What's your name? What's your name? And she's like, my name is Ellie. And it's like, okay, my name's Isaac. And, I'm an engineer. Just, and like, trying to connect with her because he's trying to build a connection to this woman so that she doesn't just lock him out, right? In the same vein that he's trying to...
he encounters that's not trying to immediately use him.
Calm down, like don't like relax with the first guy he encounters, right? Like, just calm down, man, just calm down. Because the other guy's like, there's your rig is red. There's a flashback and a health pack in the locker over there.
Well, no, it initially is him literally holding a knife
laughing
to your throat.
Because he's like going psycho.
We're gonna burn for what we did to you.
Yep.
Most iconic character in gaming.
It's dialogue that has a purpose. The characters are saying things, and the things are actually mattering, right? Then you meet that girl, that Brianna girl, or whatever, the girl trying to allegedly help you, but she's trying to win your trust over, just like Tideman is just trying to kill you and stop you. And these characters are every time they talk, they say something that matters. They're not just saying quip.
There's purpose behind every conversation.
The dialogue carries weight. It has merit and it has meaning. That's the important part.
Now, I do want to point out I will be heading out soon for work.
Champa choo, champa champa. And then they just look at you, staring at you, kissing you on the lips.
But I do want to show chat a potential upcoming thing, so it's not just all everything's dying. There's something new coming out.
Okay, so to wrap up the everything you like is dead stream, basically. In essence, what I'm trying to pick at here, Chatfishes, is that Well, yes, the new stuff is dead, and everything they're making now is dead. Does not necessitate that you cannot enjoy these things. Does not mean that Dawn of War 1 is unplayable. It does not mean that you can't watch Star Trek Deep Space Nine or play Halo 1 through 3.
We still have the originals.
You can still play these things and interact with these pieces of media. You can still watch the old Star Wars movies. Just because the new stuff is dead, there's no reason to be, absolutely feeling like everything is over. Yeah, you're right. There's nothing new going to come out for Star Wars that's going to probably be good. There might be maybe some freak thing that comes out once in a while that may be okay. Like Star Trek might produce something one day, but today is not that day. Today it's dead. And it's okay because you have a lot of media. There's a lot of things to choose from. There's a lot of existing media that's very good, like all these settings we just talked about. And there's also new upcoming media from independent and AA developers. There is a lot on the horizon, and there's no reason to really despair. The big thing I'm trying to scratch you at, Chatfishies, is that you have the choice to choose whatever you want to have to play, or watch or do whatever, and know that your list of things is massive. You have a plethora of items to choose from, and even if 40M and 40K is dead, don't despair. Don't despair if Halo doesn't make another good game. Just, enjoy the Halo stuff you do have and keep your mind open to trying new things from different places. Fresh ideas. And speaking of a fresh idea, look at this segue. See this? Carefully woven. Here's a new game that Chumpa wanted to talk about. It's called Everwind, and it launched into early access on March 17th. That was this month, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A couple days ago.
A couple weeks
or
ago.
Weeks ago. Whatever. Weeks, days, no big deal. It's another Minecraft-like, is what I will say. But it's in early access, so caution whenever early access is involved, just to let you know. But go ahead.
And the only reason this caught my eye, and I openly admit I have a soft spot for this kind of aesthetic, is I do have a soft spot for basically the floating islands and like airships.
I hate you.
And very few things, in fact, almost none of the games that actually have this kind of aesthetic are actually good. It's usually just a gimmick and it's not handled well. This could be an exception. This could actually be decent, but I don't know. Great trailer for that one right there. But yeah, I just saw this pop up in my Discovery queue, and I was like, it might be neat.
Yeah, everyone might be cool, like as in a concept. It's basically like the classic fantasy aesthetic of floating islands, and you have to sail to each island with like aircraft, right? No, am I wrong? Do I have no idea? What I'm
You
talking
can
about?
do that. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know what you mean. But yeah, but it's
So-
like it's done occasionally, that kind of stuff, but usually it's not done well and it's really poorly implemented. This, on quick inspection, was like, okay, maybe this actually could be neat. Like, you're actually building the ship, and well, as you can see, like, it's like, okay, this might actually have some, merit to it.
The amount of force you would need to be blowing on those things to move it up is nuts. But yeah.
Well, yeah, we're gonna ignore like how the physics of that airship would not work whatsoever.
Yes, it is a bit weird. Bohemia Interactive is publishing this game. Bohemia Interactive are
No,
the
it's another
guys
thing
that
they call
made
me.
Arma, and it seems like the little AA that is Bohemia Interactive has decided to try to start becoming a games publisher because this
Don't
is
they
the
also
second.
publish in Silica?
Yeah, they publish Silica. It also runs on the Silica engine or on the Arma engine. So yeah, Bohemia. This is interesting because Bohemia Interactive seems to be getting into publishing more and more. They have had a history of doing it in the past, but they're being more broad with the games they're publishing. So again, new publishers entering the field is a net good thing. It just means more potential games being given a chance rather than only what the handful of publishers that exist will actually give a chance. Another one to add next to Hooded Horse. More publishers means more options for developers, which is just a net good. Means better deals, more competition. Competition is a good thing with a capital G. Competition is good. We need games to be pushing the envelope and trying to make better games. That's why I really wish there were other games in the genre we're developing for that would be like pushing things too. Because we need more competition in, I think, every market and every genre. Because it helps leads to innovation for new mechanics and new features and helps evolve the gaming forward for the better. Better games, better mechanics, better things for players.
But this might be something to keep an eye on. Maybe we can even get a fund for it started later. But as Gibbs did point out, it's early access, so it might be a case of let's wait and just keep an eye
We'll
on it.
probably take a look at this tonight in the Discord server, and if it's got any merit to it, we'll probably set aside a day this week.
There is
for trying
another
it.
game that I'm gonna try to test out tonight, chat. That could be interesting, but I want to test out the demo before
Just say
even
the
putting it up
name.
because
Well, it's okay to say. I think we can trust chat.
you could
They're
say it,
adults. They
but
can
like
make their own choices. Like, what's the
it's
name?
called Eversiege. It's the thing we looked at before stream.
Yeah, because if chatfishies want to see something, they're adults. We have to trust our audience to be intelligent to make decisions for themselves.
Yes, but it was more just I didn't want to like talk about it till I actually tried it because I wanted to
But
confirm
yes,
if it is something to be fun.
all you just need to say is you haven't tried it yet. It looks interesting,
Yeah.
is what I'd say. It's basically a MOBA. Before you vomit, hold on. It's a single player, well, not single player, PvE MOBA,
PvE.
which is
Yeah,
actually what I've
but-
been kind of itching and wish would be a thing, where you play as a team of players
Well, you can also let it
fighting
speak for
against
itself.
hordes. Well, yeah, I could, but my job is to talk and make noises, and they can also just look at it because we showed them the name. So I'm gonna talk. Look, Jeff.
Well, I was just talking about mechanically because like all we're seeing now is a cinematic for it. As Metallic Chair vomits. But yeah. Mix of MOBA and tower defense, but PvE. And supposedly says roguelike elements.
Yeah, it looks kind of cute. The concept is nice because I've always kind of enjoyed MOBAs as a conceptual, like game design thing, but they're always hyper competitive and hyper PvP. Somebody's finally thinking about doing something a bit more refreshing with the genre, rather than it just being the same regurgitation of hyper competitive PvP, esports chasing games. What if we try to do something PvE with this genre and try to innovate and build on top of it? It's a really cool concept. And I wish that game I'm looking for, March of the Giants, would do something like this too. Because March of the Giants is also really fun.
Yeah, so March of the Giants has kind of gone radio silent, and there is
Might be development hell.
speculation that they're dead. Because
Yeah.
Amazon Games was a dying branch of Amazon. They jumped ship to Ubisoft, who bought them out.
And
And now
Ubisoft's a
Ubisoft is
dying
doing
ship.
massive layoffs. And we've heard nothing from... Now, there hasn't been any confirmation that it's dead, but there's been no news. Their website still talks about the
They should have tried Hooded Horse.
playtest.
Yeah, I think.
Well, I think they ended up with Ubisoft because Ubisoft offered to buy them. I don't know if they even really had much of a choice. I don't know the details.
True.
But I think I recall seeing one of the reasons being they are a French studio that was making the game, and so they were sticking with a French company.
They thought sticking loyalty to the French, well, that'll teach you. Which is a shame because
Because
I really
their
enjoyed
announcement
that game.
about partnering with Ubisoft, like one of the things was like partnering with fellow French.
On.
Metal furry daddies, says Shikari Leto.
What the fuck? All right, abort him. He's like,
Let's talk about this game.
Metal furry daddies. Oh, because
they've got animalistic.
They take on
totem-esque
animalistic things because they're like energy and armor.
Yeah.
Damn. They should have gone with the poles. I don't know. CD Projekt Red. Big sketch. Babby's like, and starts screaming.
But yeah, PvE MOBA with tower defense elements. Like, it could be a neat, fun game, but it has a demo, which props to every game that actually has a demo.
Yeah. No, that is good. Honestly, the any games that produce demos, I actually salute. Like, seriously.
Now, there
Good move.
is the rare occasional game that they basically
Front load is what you're gonna say?
pour all of their budget into the demo to make the game look good, and then
Yes, that's called front loading.
yeah,
Front
they
loading
front-load it.
is bad, and that's something you should be aware of. Yes.
A game that did this really badly was a game called Legendary, which had a bunch of mythology creatures and stuff, and like what happens in like the worlds collide, and like mythology creatures are popping up from Earth and causing chaos, and like the end of the demo you fight a minotaur, and it's like this big cool thing, and the rest of the game is nothing like it. It's just garbage, basically.
Yee.
Heard it, Horse is Polish.
Not for long.
Those
He's like,
bathhouse.
what? And then I just Destroy Poland. It's now America. It's now America. Got him.
So, yeah. This game could be neat, but we'll have to... Well, it's got a demo, so I'll be trying it tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, chat, I think this wraps up the fireside chat. We'll be raiding into the next stream, which will be embarking on a journey to discover some potentially canceling things, honestly. I might get in trouble for it. I'm actually not sure, because it's actually contemporary.
What's the name of the mod?
It's called The Fire Rises, and it looks kind of spicy. It got in trouble with a government. I don't remember if it was the Canadian government or something.
Probably Canadian.
Or British government, but basically the mod was
Both are pretty
accused of
bad.
radicalizing people. So we're gonna play a radicalizing.
Okay, then it was probably British.
Yeah, probably. We're gonna play.
If that's the accusation, it's probably British.
We're probably gonna get radicalized, Chatfish. It's over. It's over. She was like,
There's yes. Also, Ponderzen posted a link, Kibbs.
Oh, I
they
did?
posted in discussion in the stream room.
That's
Yes,
true. Chatfish can post links. They're allowed.
it is Fireside.
Like, thanks for allowing us to do the basic bare minimum, Kib. You son of a bitch, says Chatfish.
I also saw news of this that Ponderzen linked.
This game? Wowhead? What the fuck? Oh no. Hold on. I disabled my ad blocker. It's being feisty with me. Hold on. Copy. What are we gonna do to Beano, chat?
He has to remove all the ads advertising because they're too personalized. They're basically like, help you lose weight with this product. You can grow your hair with this.
What are you trying to say? He's like,
Kibbs has attained the Chatfish body, is what I'm saying.
The website sucks. All right, so it finally loaded. So let's see. Darkspear Dash, World of Warcraft's first official Pride event, coming patch 12.0.5. Talking about dead games, talking about dead IPs.
Let's circle back to the dead thing.
Yeah, Warcraft is sadly one of those things. I really enjoy World of Warcraft for like the memories I have and like some of the gameplay stuff I really like. But this is an example of like a dead thing. It just doesn't really. That's not really what World of Warcraft's about, nor is Warcraft about pride. Like, you want to know what pride was in Warcraft? Pride was Arthas not letting go. Pride was Arthas not realizing
Pride
that
was
he needed to turn
actual
back.
pride, not...
Pride is a bad thing. The elves being proud and not retreating when they should have fled, and fighting to the last and quell the loss. What did pride do for them? It got them all killed. It got them all raised as the undead, enslaved and undeath. Pride in Warcraft has a very negative connotation. It is not a particularly good thing. And so it's just ironic, is all I'm going to say.
Why start now, though? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you waited until, like, the worst of the woke era was over? And then you start the
Because Blizzard's a very woke company. They're like Bungie.
Yeah, they're woke now. It doesn't mean that everybody there is Beano, but it means that the people, the decision maker,
people in upper positions are.
Yep, and so
I understand
that they are going to have this stuff because it does not matter what Jim, the ground floor worker programmer, thinks. Because if Jim acts up, Jim's gonna go and have a new job somewhere else.
And given how Blizzard is, I just think they'll call hewing about people.
Them.
Whenever they went to work for Blizzard, they were basically told that they're going to get paid less than the standard rate and they're going to have to work long hours because they're getting the privilege to work for the prestigious company that is Blizzard.
Yes, that's the line they tout, yeah.
Another issue that they have is that I unironically think this is not even incompetency or wokeness anymore. I think this is malice because, like, okay, hear me out, Chatfishes. Imagine I'm a heartless, soulless suit, and like I'm like, oh my god, I love making other people miserable. How can I make this programmer's life even worse? Less pay. No, I already did that. More work hours and less pay. I already did that. I know. I'm going to make them put something in the game that's going to be very unpopular, and hopefully the game loses money and I can fire him and make him have like an user from stress, you know, like there. Yes, perfect. I think that's is starting to be like this, because everyone knows that these things lose money. You get what I mean? So
Mm.
like,
Well, yeah. I mean, anything in excess is bad too, Chet. Being proud of your son is good. Being like, I hope to God when we reach our game's like release day, and we release our game, I can have it say proudly presents, because I want to be proud of it. And if not,
Well, the thing
then
with
well, it's
pride
never going to come out.
and
Never.
all of that stuff, even envy and like greed, it's not so much that having them at all is bad. It's the excess.
Yes, taking too much. That's why we have a policy when we do streaming, right? We try to make profits, but now that we've made our daily goal and we've exceeded it, we often don't super duper pitch stuff hard. And the reason why is mentality. Why do we not pitch stuff after we make the daily? Because we have a policy, and this is a personal belief I have. Take what we need, and if we get a little extra, great. But don't push it. We should be grateful that we even have what we have. Because being grateful is important. Because if you start to change your mindset and we push things super hard, right? Then we could just degenerate and become the same thing. We become obsessed with like, oh, Chet, we could have Sunday's goal today. I mean, yeah, it'd be great, but like reality, not possible to maintain.
you,
Slow
you
and steady
don't
as
want
she goes, Captain. Be grateful for what you have.
we don't want to go full DSP. Like oh my god, chat. No one gifted me a kidney in the last 5 seconds since the last kidney came. How am I going to have another kidney for my kidney collection or something like? You get what I mean?
Yes, and it's why it's important to have that mindset, regardless of whether you're, doing whatever, because be grateful. Try to always make extra. Try to do better, but don't push it, because you should be in it for endurance. You should be in it to, make the long haul. If you've got a long journey ahead of you, be ready to make the long journey. Think long term, much like we talked about earlier with developers. Don't think short term. Short term leads to bad problems. Yeah, you might be able to squeeze and penny pinch to get like a lot extra, but it's not worth it. Chumpus donates $1. Chumpus is gonna head off to work. Chumpa,
Yes, I must go. Have a good
uh,
one, everyone.
take care, Chumpa. Good luck, and don't push yourself at work, buddy.
yeah,
No promises.
take care, my dude.
Just take
Yeah,
it
yeah.
easy. He's a sick little Chumpa Choo, Chad. Chumpa Choo. And they look at him and they give him a smooch.
Damn.
He's like, why don't I get a smooch? Well, let's see what the poll is. 99. Okay, so the age of the thing you like is over. The age of the chatfish is now at 67%. 70% are chatfish strong together, and 16% are bucket power. Chatfish are convinced that the dawn of their age has come. The age of the fish is now. But yes, the point of this stream is what you love is dead. Is basically it's okay to like. I hope that you guys actually like it. Like I hope that this was helpful for some of you, because I know that some of you get really bent out of shape. Because you guys get really glummed out when we hang out in the Discord server about like a certain thing being dead, or like an IP being the way it is and being kind of bummed out. Like, yeah, it's okay for it to be dead. Like it's not like you don't like, yeah, the new stuff sucks, but like there's tons of stuff out there. You've got all the old stuff, and you've got other IPs, other settings, and even if those old other things suck, it doesn't mean that you don't have Halo 1. Doesn't mean that you can't watch the original Star Wars trilogy. There are ways to do these things, even if they try to change them, right? Retroactively.
Mhm.
There are all sorts of ways. Like you can still play classic Warcraft 3 without having to get the reforged version. There are still ways to do these things. Don't be super bummed out, fishies. Try to also look at the bright side of things. Always look at the bright side of life. But not in a meme sense. Just, I mean you can, right? If that makes you smile, but don't
Remember,
don't be too
catfish.
glum.
You don't live in Brazil, so be happy that like the like unironically, if the only problems we had in our lives were like that our franchise that we like are kind of bad now, I would be happier than yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Look at the bright
I
side. We're building our IP, chat. You are going to be part of that. Look, distraction. It's like a little chatfish, like sad about the box of cookies being empty.
Ironically, like if you think about it, that's kind of like how the even life goes. Like at some point, even something that is good and everyone likes it
Yeah, it's
gets
the
old and
cycle,
dies.
right? Like
Yeah, it's a
eventually,
cycle.
everything sort of dies, and the legacy of what came before will be immortal. So you can have that. And basically, the way I'm trying to pitch this to you, Chatfish, is that the reality is we have a lot of great games. Yes, there are a lot of bad games and stuff and bad movies. But honestly, anytime there's another good movie or great game or good comic or good book, it's another good thing on the pile of good stuff. And
Mhm.
that's just going to keep growing. It might be slower some years than others, but I think this year is going to be a good year for gaming. We are off to a pretty strong start, and the stuff on the horizon looks pretty solid. And hopefully, we're going to end this with another decent, pile of new stuff on top of the good things. Welcome to Streamlive, Napoleon,
Hey, yeah,
and
there's
thank you for
always
launch of
like
support. I thought your name was
yeah,
like
there's
Jeff or
always
something. What?
some game that you never heard about that you find. For example, I like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because I grew up watching the cartoon, right? The 2003 cartoon. But I don't like the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff. And then like I found a game that was pretty cheap and it's pretty fun that I have been playing. And that made me even want to watch the old cartoon again. Like so, there's always like things that you can do, even if the IPs like are kind of dead. So that's cool.
Mhm. Was that all the Chatfish articles, Beano?
I think it was. Let me see. Let me look at Dark Spear. Wow. Let me see Bickering Bunch discussions.
The
Where is
Beano's
Bickering
looking.
Bunch
He's doing his
discussion?
job. Good, Beano. Good.
Damn. Did you see? Did you see the Reeford one? Like about someone posted about Loria.
What? That sounds like
No, no, sorry.
Ingles.
That's from yesterday. Yeah, that sounds. Yeah, no, that's the last. That's the last thing.
Okay. We are then
Also,
caught up. What?
last thing. Congrats to the winners of the 3 weekly rankings. The first one was Chow Chow. The second one was Von Felsenbroth. And the third one was Not Alfarius.
Mm-hmm. What do they get?
I don't know.
Beano, they
You
get a
need to ask
pocket fish
him.
on a thumbnail, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, is that it? Ah, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
We
You need
have
to.
weekly winnings for interactivity. We tally up at the end of the week chat, we tally up how many of you typed in chat and interacted, and we check each stream for first, second, and third place. The winners who win first, second, and third the most determine where they fall in the weekly ranking, and once the weekly ranking is decided, they get free pocket fishes, meaning they get to put their fish on a thumbnail of their choice at the end of the week. So 3
Mhm.
pocket fishes are handed out at the end of every week. We're just the best, aren't we? How do we do it? Well, we do it because we have you, the Chatfishes. Chatfish,
Mhm.
yeah, we're pretty fucking cool.
This is a community for the chef.
By
By
the
the chef.
Chatfish. Bina's like drops the bad part. He's a good Bina,
Yeah.
good. Drops the bad part.
Because I like Chatfish. But ironically, like I didn't even use the internet that much before like I joined like the bucket of the Chatfish. Because before I would just like look at the DMs and then leave and not get online for the
Mm-hmm.
most of the day.
Also,
There's
before we
not
wrap up this stream and raid into the next stream, I'm gonna make a sandwich or something because I'm kind of hungry, boys. So
I need to go. Yeah, I need to go
might be
grind.
like 5 7 minutes. I'm just gonna whip something up in the kitchen and then we'll start the next stream. But if you could, I'd appreciate it if you guys could like the stream as always because it helps the channel in the back end. Because YouTube is not very nice to us in the algorithm. But anything
Mhm.
helps if you can. If not, no worries. And either way, we will see you in the next stream, which will start in about 5 to 10ish minutes. I'm gonna make a chicken sandwich real quick. And then once I finish that sandwich, then we will start the next stream. And the next stream is Hearts of Iron 4. Beanos will be there. Woohoo!
I'm going to be there.
Good, Beano,
And I'm going to
good.
make you make all the bad decisions. I'm going to like attack them keeps.
All right.
But
We'll
they're
see you in
my
the next
they're
stream
my
chat. See you shortly.
see
Goodbye.
my dude.